nice to have options. It's 8:30, and I'm going to call the meeting to order. Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. At this time, I would extend an invitation for any citizens to schedule time on the commission agenda for an item not listed. Is there anyone that would like to be added to the agenda? Seeing that there are none, we'll move to approval of the agenda. Would we have a motion?
Move approval.
Second.
Any additions or subtractions from the agenda? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
We'll move on to the consent agenda, which includes approval of minutes, travel and education requests, personnel action notices, and the human services report. Are there any additions or subtractions from the consent agenda? Do we have a motion?
Move approval. Second.
Is that request to fill vacancy in there? Later? That's later.
Any discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Routine business, approval of claims. Do we have anything to,
There is one addition in front of you this morning, or not an addition, actually, just a correction. There was a TV and a wall mount that should have been a shared expense between the BCOAC and the extension, and it had gotten just put in, I believe, as a BCOAC expense initially. So this corrects that. So it's just separating that between those two budgets.
I had a question about in the human resources claims section, there was a bill for $767.07 for Indeed Inc. for job postings. Do we use that for everything or just certain types of jobs? How does that?
We use Indeed for every job posting.
For every
it goes
job
on.
posting?
Yeah, it
Thank
really,
you.
yep.
Anything else as relates to claims? Do we have a motion?
Move approval.
We'll do a roll call vote.
Jensen,
Aye.
Miller, Krogman,
Aye.
Bartley,
Aye.
Pierce.
Aye.
Motion carries.
Moving on to department reports. Community health.
Good morning.
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 Seems like forever since I've been here, but it's like I think we missed last fall, and
But
it's
I
already
am
been a
going-
year just about.
I am going to have you say your name for the people
Yep.
watching on TV.
Yep. My name is Jen Burns. I'm one of the nurses at the Community Health Department of Health office. So we've been doing hanging in there. Our WIC services, we've transitioned over to the eWIC card last fall. That seems to be going well for clients versus getting those checks. We've seen services just increase. We're able to give 3 months of benefits versus having people come in every month. So that seems to ease them up a little bit also with them having to come into the office. Immunizations still seem to be big on our radar. I've been focusing the last couple months really on trying to reach out to those adolescent parents, trying to get those kids immunized before that 6th grade entry. And I've also been focusing on the kids that were in middle school prior to that law with the Tdap and meningococcal being in effect to try to get those kids immunized also. So focusing on those 5th graders going into 6th grade, and then also those older kids, just trying to get everybody in the community vaccinated with the Tdap, meningococcal, and the human papillomavirus. We're still working with the Brookings pod group. We're due to be having our large, big-scale exercise next fall, and our focus will be on SDSU students and providing that flu vaccine. So we've been meeting every month working on that. School services are completed now. We got our school contract sent out. Again, our contracted schools are Dubrook, Sioux Valley, and then Sioux Valley Christian. So those should be in the process for next year. Baby care, those pregnant women, we still meet with them every month, do that prenatal education, breastfeeding education, making sure they're seeing their doctors and whatnot. Infant mortality, giving out those cribs as needed, the pack and plays, educating on the importance of that safe sleep is a big factor. We do have Karen and I will be listening to a safe sleep webinar. I think it's this Wednesday. So just, again, getting some more education that way. Our office is fully staffed. We got our 2 nurses and our 2 clericals. In May, all 4 of us will be going up to Watertown for our region meeting and having a mental health first aid training. Our manager went to it, I think, 2 months ago out in Mitchell and felt like it was a really good training. So she's bringing that speaker to our region. So, which we all need, that mental health is a big issue and problem. So it'll be good to have that little extra training and education too. So that's it. Any other questions?
Thank you very
All
much.
right. All right. Thank you. Have a good day.
County Development?
Good morning.
Morning.
First thing, you've got 2 be it noted on the agenda. One is my state and local agreement, which is due to be turned in by the end of the month. Requires a chairperson signature, and the other one's the daily time sheets that's required by the state and local agreements. Are there any questions on those 2 items? Thank you. We had a zoning meeting on April the 2nd and went well, ended halfway reasonable time-wise. April the 5th, we had a severe weather warning siren test. Typically, it would have been done on April the 2nd, but we had a snow event that day, so we pushed it back to the alternate date. I attended a teleconference with the NACO Justice and Public Safety Committee on April 5th also. April 6th and looks like 11th, I visited the April 9th, 6 and 9. I went down to the OAC and I'm working with the director down there just on updating the building safety plan. I'm bringing other departments in. The Sheriff's Department visited on April the 6th, and then the Fire Department came down on April the 9th, and we're working with the director to make a good product that's universal throughout the whole county. And so all the buildings have the same type of safety plan in place. Had a joint jurisdiction meeting on April the 11th. A subcommittee was formed to look at mining issues in the joint jurisdiction area. And the thought process would be we would take whatever we figure out in the joint jurisdiction area and see if we could apply it countywide. We don't know if that's going to be feasible, but we'll take a look at it and see. Our next meeting is April 25th. Unfortunately, I don't think our subcommittee is going to be able to meet before then because there's 3 extra committee members on it, and one of them, his employment, he can't break loose to have a meeting yet, but we're getting all that in line. April the 11th, I met with the state's attorney, Commissioner Pierce, and Richard, and we looked over more of the agricultural zoning ordinance. No, we looked at the supplements on the zoning ordinance. April 12th, we had a 911 meeting. April 12th, we had a PPCC pod meeting. We got the tour of the new hospital addition. April 12th, we had an ag subcommittee meeting that night at 6 o'clock, and we ate pizza. April 13 to 15, the only word I need to say is blizzard. And I do want to thank the individuals that, 2 individuals. One brought a vehicle to plow my driveway so I could get out at least. And another one snowblowed half my sidewalk, which saved me from having a heart attack that day. And usually they don't want thanks, and I want to thank them anyway. April 24th, next Tuesday, 1 week from today, we have storm spotter training, 7 p.m. over at the East Fire Station. We'll email the flyers out to anyone that wants to come to it. This will be Todd Heikamp's last time of doing it, especially in Brookings. He's been selected as the chief of the Sioux Falls National Weather Service. So that's quite an honor for him. He's got 20 plus years in the National Weather Service. And a year ago when I was out at NACO's legislative conference, we went to the National Weather Service headquarters, and he's well thought of all the way up the chain. So it's good to see him getting promoted up the chain. We do have a joint jurisdiction meeting scheduled for April 25th. April 25th, I have the South Dakota Office of Emergency Management Coordinator, Region 6 Coordinator visiting. April 28th, a Civil Air Patrol is having an event over at the airport. I'm going to be out that day, so I'm going to have Richard come in, and basically what we do is we take our county emergency management vehicle, we empty some of the hazmat stuff out and just set it around the truck and show in case anybody wants to have a career. It's almost like a career day type thing where if they're interested in emergency management, we can show them what equipment we use and what jobs we do, and we'll pass out some county flyers. We'll take the same kind of flyers that we do like at the home show and at that special event where the community gets together. We'll have a table set up so they can take our flyers. Our administrative section of the ordinance was published one more time. It will become effective on May 3rd. Excuse me. It will become effective on May 3rd. Currently working on, we do have a grant right now. We're in the technical assistance grant from the USDOT's Pipeline Safety Administration, and we're at the halfway point, so I have to send a letter in to them explaining what we've done up until this time and what our goals are for the next 6 months, and I'll make sure that the commission gets a copy of that letter when I submit it to the feds. I discussed the wildlife agreement that we talked about last week, or last 2 weeks, and with Chief Hartman. He requested that we do a resolution on it, and his name, Assistant Fire Chief Bolger, and then my name. And biggest reason my name's on there is in case we're so close to Minnesota that if there's ever I don't know if you're keeping track or not of the national news, but down in Oklahoma, there's just a fire going through the prairie to beat anything. And if something like that occurred in Brookings County up in the hills near like Hendricks, we would have to call in Minnesota, and that's where I would step in and do the multi-state. May is Wildlife Awareness Month. I'm going to have a resolution presented at the May 1st meeting, just recognizing that for your consideration. I'm still working on those state and local agreements, working on a 2019 budget, and our command trailer, which we maintain at the county. It's actually for the fire department, sheriff's office, police department, and my office. In the next couple of weeks, it's going to be over at Valero. When they do their yearly shutdown, the fire department requests the trailer to set up, and so they got a place to work out of while Valero's doing their maintenance. And the weather coming up, it looks like it's going to turn between 1 a.m. and 6 a.m. tonight, and tomorrow morning, we are looking at up to 4 to 6 inches of snow. Any questions?
No question. I just want to thank you for staying on top of all of this storm activity that we've been having, and especially this last one. It was a dangerous storm, and I was out of town and didn't know when the interstates were open, so it was nice to have you as a reference. Thank you.
Thank you. And the way they shut the interstates down this time actually made sense. They started from the north down, so they stopped a bus that was heading to Fargo in Brookings, and I checked with dispatch to make sure they sent them to hotels, which is the proper thing. As long as they've got hotels in the city of Brookings, we don't set shelters up, and by them doing the shutdown in segments, it really helps us. And then you listen to the radio, and when the troopers do their sweep, there should be no one else on the interstate. And if you do get stuck on the interstate, it's a $220 fine, is what I heard on the radio. So I would prefer not to get that. Thank you.
Any questions? Okay. Mike, would you like to go next?
Good morning.
Morning.
I've come here. We're doing the codified law 2813 revision, and I volunteered to be part of that team that does the revision. It's about a 3-year project. We've been dealing with Chris and Bob at the state at the meeting there, And we have 10 people on the committee. We have 2 state's attorneys, 2 commissioners, and the other 6 are going to be welfare workers or auditors. We'll be doing a lot of our meetings by phone. We'll be having a few in-person ones. And I just come to ask you guys if I may be a member of that group.
Bet.
Okay.
The record should show there was a consensus on head shaking there.
Thank you. And like I say, it's about a 3-year project. We have a couple of people in the legislature right now that we've been contacting to take the bills forward for us. But right now we're in the very beginning of it. One of the state attorneys went through the statutes and kind of reorganized some of them. But we do realize that this is a long project.
Mike, do you know who the 2 commissioners are who are on that?
Yes, I can tell you who they are. It's going to be David Gillespie out of Lincoln County,
Okay.
and Tom Hansen out of Beadle County.
And who are the 2 state's attorneys?
And the 2 states, Victor Rapka out of Marshall County, Rapcock, I believe. And the other one is Mike Thompson, and he's out of Minnehaha County. I believe he's also a professor down at Sioux Falls, University of Sioux Falls, or whatever that is.
He was a classmate of mine.
Okay. Well, good. And I guess the other thing is that the president of the South Dakota Veteran Service Officers Association, County Veteran Service, he has resigned, and I've been appointed as vice president for that organization. But I do not plan going up being president again. I was that for 2 terms, and that's about all I wanted. But since we do have the national training coming in to Pierre this year, and I am the state representative for the NAC, the National Association of County Veteran Service Officers, I thought I should be involved somewhat with that. So those are the 2 main things. I plan on going up to Frost Arena tomorrow afternoon for the Governor's Day with the ROTC. And I still have been going up on campus once a month to meet with the veterans there at their center. As far as traffic through the office, the veterans traffic has been maintaining about the same. Our calls are down slightly from about 110 down to about 90 for a 2-week period. The visitors are about the same, though. We get 2 to 3 per day for the veteran side of it, and 1 or 2 for the welfare side per day. So those numbers have been keeping kind of consistent. With the low-income energy assistance program coming to an end, we might see a little more uptake in requests for utilities, and also with this during the winter, Brookings Municipal Utilities allows them an additional month for catch-up, and now that's come to an end, and so we'll probably see a little more traffic on that. So far, I've seen 3. That's awesome. Hopefully, it'll all work out. Okay.
Any questions for Mike? Thank you.
Thank you.
Finance officers report?
Good morning. To give you a little review of what we've been up to, Kristen and I worked last Tuesday night with a city school election, and that all went good. The scanner worked great, and everybody worked together well, and everything went good. We got out of there about 10 o'clock, so no problems there. The absentees are starting this Friday, so the room is all set up down there, and we've got 2 temporary election workers that are starting today to kind of get things lined up and ready for Friday. So, and it's Kristen worked, and also Sean helped her with all the IT stuff, so we've got everything set up on the other end. So I think it's going to be a lot more user-friendly, so hopefully it will go good. But I think the room looks better, and I think it'll be better handicapped accessible and everything. So I'm kind of excited the way that is turning out. So we will start that on Friday. Independent petitions are due by April 24th in our office. And also, the voter deadline is May 21st if you want to vote in the primary election. And we just are getting set up with our drop box for property taxes outside of our office. We've been busy getting some of those in. So we will have that out, and also we will be running something in the, it's in the papers, all of our public notices, and we will also have something on the radio with that also. And we got all the budget worksheets and everything out. They are due back by the 18th. So we have gotten one back, so somebody's really on the ball, so that's good. And we just got the wind tower money in last week, and the total that we received is $905,094.21. And I can give it a breakdown of that next time too, but it was down about $3,500 overall, and the county portion was down about $1,000. So it was pretty much in comparison to what we had last year, but just down a little bit. So to give you an idea on that. And your finance officer's report was in the packet, and we have 4 be it noted items: the auditor's account with the treasurer, the payroll and additives total, the highway expenditure report, and the register of deeds fees collected. And for our general cash analysis, we were at 10.71%, or 74%, excuse me, and that is pretty much in line with what we've had before. I know a couple years ago we were down to 4 or 5% at this time, and we've been as high as 15, 16%, so we're about right in the middle, feeling fine about that. So with all the tax dollars coming in, that should raise it up, so we will have more on those. And that pretty much sums up what we've been doing in our office. Any questions? Thank you.
Thank you. Scott, would you like to go next? Okay, no report from the sheriff's office. Misty?
Good morning.
Morning.
Just kind of want to let you know, we have 16 townships total signed up to spray this spring and throughout the fall. 7 are not. We lost 2 of them because of what we use. They want us to use a different chemical. I'm working on that, and I have a board meeting tomorrow at 2 p.m. If anybody would like to come, we will be discussing that at our board meeting, and I will bring back what we discuss at the next commission meeting, so you all are kind of know where we're going with this. 16 townships total are spraying, and we have 2 townships this year that are requesting brush spraying in the fall. And then them 2 townships are Sterling and Brookings. So we'll be working on that in the fall for them. Employees, we hired 2 ATV drivers, and we will be fully staffed. I have a vehicle for everybody to utilize and get the job done, of course. Well, we're looking at starting back May 30th, and I keep pushing it back because of all the snow, and there's not much for them to do. Next week on the 26th, I will be going to Mitchell to have our mosquito foggers calibrated. We have to do that yearly. I'm looking at the mosquito program, not quite sure where we're going with that. I would like to visit with Josh at the city to make sure we're not double spraying the same areas. So I will be meeting with him. And then also I wanted to let you know, not sure if you've seen my correction in the paper. I had the wrong address for the grape growers and organic individuals and the no spray zones. I still had the resource center address in there, so I needed to run it at least 1 more week, so we had the correct address in it. But otherwise, any questions for me?
When you have your meeting and talking about which chemicals to be spraying, are pollinators part of that conversation?
They are sure welcome to be part of that. It's an open meeting.
I'm asking if you discuss the impact of chemicals on pollinators. I just think it's so important that when we're picking out the chemicals that we're spraying in our road ditches, that we are not contributing to the decline of pollinators in Brookings County.
And I agree with you. And also, I would like pollinators and any individual out there to know that we are only spot spraying this year. We can solid spray the top of the ditch and the inslope. We will do that our first run, but otherwise it's spot spray. So we will not be covering the whole ditch anymore.
Thank you.
Yep.
That's such an important thing for us to take some responsibility for, so.
We're doing the best we can, but we still got to control the noxious weeds. It's kind of it's a difficult process.
How many of the pollinators actually come in and request a no spray zone?
When I'm talking
None.
about pollinators, though, I mean butterflies and bees,
Oh,
and and they don't come and talk to us at the meeting. We got to speak up for them. That's what I'm talking about, is the importance of those critters to our ag economy.
I've had one new individual. He just moved back to Brookings County. He stopped in yesterday and signed, let me know where he was, so we've got his area on the map so we don't spray. And then another individual out by Lake Campbell, he come in, and then there's one more. I can't remember exactly where it was, but I've gotten 3. So,
Okay.
and I would hope that every individual that has either grapes, bees, organic, come in and reapply with me every year in case they move. If they move, who's taking care of the weeds in that area?
Correct.
But like I said, it's so important that we have some concern for the wild ones that don't have anyone speaking, because they are what pollinate most of the crops in our area, so.
Right, and I agree with that. We'll work with them the best of our ability.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Dick, I think you're the only one left, and we've got 5 minutes until our first scheduled agenda item. You want to start, and then we'll interrupt?
I could, or Alan's here if you want to just do it as part of mine.
Oh, you could start, and then we'll bring him up at 9. We just can't start his issue until 9 o'clock.
Well, thanks to Mother Nature, we were busy this weekend like we've been the last 3 weekends. They've got their schedules all mixed up. They should be sending the snow Monday morning, and we would be much happier. However, just so you know, whether it's a big blast of snow or a nuisance snow, it's pretty much the same process, and it is one of those deals that we take the best we can and handle it the best we can and move on from there. The other thing, I'm working on budgets, and also I had a question on how for 2018 I had some money in there for big grant match. That is not for the grants or the match money that we will be doing that were just awarded earlier this month. That was dealing with, if you took the first 2 grants that we were awarded, that was to be match money. One we did not receive in 2017 and one we did. So that left a little bit of money. So when I turned in my request for grant match money in 2018 for 2019 coming up, instead of the 1.942 million that we should be setting aside for future match money in those 2 grants, we can reduce that by about 200 and some thousand, because that's what the bridge would have been that we weren't awarded the year before. So we've pretty well got it all covered, and the thing, I guess, a reminder, so to speak, when we're going, we're always a year behind. So this year, we're planning on what will need to be financial obligations for the future. And so with that 1,700,000, the past should be taken care of, and the future will be taken care of also. Specifics, any of the specifics, I think Doug Wessel did a great job of breaking it down on that report he gave a while back. And some of the other things that we want to remember in case people from the public would want to ask questions of the board, you know, in 2016, when we built the bridge south of White with our own funds, and we also had matching funds for preliminary engineering grants and stuff. We also had a preservation grant that came in way over budget, which was kind of out of our hands, the way it was constructed. So those things add up, and we try the best to keep it in line, but I always adjust as we do the next year's budget so that everything is taken into account. And kind of to reassure you of how lengthy the process can be.
I'm going to interrupt you. I'm sorry, Dick. We'll
Okay,
take our
it's 9?
schedule. Yeah, it's 9.
Okay.
We'll take our scheduled agenda item, and then we'll come back because
All right.
this is good stuff. Mr. Hoff, I think you can come on forward and this is a time.
some printouts here. Can I hand them to you, folks?
You may. There is a dot, I believe, on that table. If you lay one of them on the dot, it'll appear on the screen up here. Okay. Oh, Stacy's going to take care of it.
No.
Good morning, Commissioners. My name is Alan Hoff. I am the current manager of Tail Camp House Moving. I've heard some of your names. I don't know if you guys know me or not. I've been moving buildings for 30 years with the Tail Camp family here in town. I am here this morning to request that you allow Richard Burke to issue me a permit to take a 35-ton house over a bridge that is posted at 24-ton in Brookings County. And what I have given before you is an actual axle layout of what this load configuration will be. I don't know if, I'll try not to get too complicated for most of you, but in the industry in the United States, and this is not something I've come up with, this is something engineers came up with 100 years ago, there's something referred to as dual lane loading. And so that bridge, these bridges on Old 77 down by the county line, they are posted at 24-ton. And so that 24-ton is what you would refer to as a single lane posting. So if you think about that in humorous terms, that actually means two trucks at 24-ton could pass each other on that bridge doing 55 miles an hour, and now all of a sudden we've got 48-ton on that bridge. What I've got before you here is a small single-story house I'm going to move from Hartford area to Lake Benton area, and I need to cross this bridge sometime in the middle of May. So I'm here to answer any questions you may have. I was directed here by Mr. Burke. Obviously, I've talked to him several times about this already, and I talked to him again this morning. He has a copy of this axle layout in his possession. He told me he has absolutely no problem with this load going across that bridge. So if you have any questions, I would gladly answer them for you guys to the best of my ability. I'll keep this as short as possible because when this meeting is over, I'm taking my wife and children to New Mexico because it is 90 degrees and sunny there.
I have a question about if you're granted the permit and there ends up being a problem, what type of insurance do you have that's going to fix the problem?
I have copies of my liability insurance if you'd like to see that, but we are insured for at least $1 million, $2 million comprehensive. And to my knowledge, it's always that way. I mean, even if the bridge wasn't posted at 24-ton and I went across the bridge and smashed the bridge, I would be buying you a new bridge or Brookings County a new bridge anyways. But yeah, I have a copy if you'd like. Would you like to see that? Okay.
No, take your word for that.
Yeah.
I just had a question on the dual lane posting. I believe our bridge postings are per structure, aren't they, Dick?
I didn't hear you, Larry.
Our dual lane, the bridge posting on our bridges is for the structure, correct?
Correct. Yes, it's a gross weight.
Right, 24-ton posted. I mean, it's not a 48-ton posted.
No.
No.
No, it's not, but like I said, it is a dual lane, so what I'm referring to is like what the state of South Dakota makes me do. If you notice on the note here, I put what we actually have is 17.5 ton per lane, and then the state of South Dakota will tell me certain mile markers and bridges that I have to slow down to anywhere from 2 to 5 mile an hour, and then they make us go to the center of the lane, if that makes any sense to you.
Yeah, but I mean, our bridges, if they're posted at 24-ton, we cannot have 2 trucks on there at the same time at 24-ton.
I would agree with that, except for there are no signs that say single lane posting and so on.
Correct.
I guess what I'm saying is, and I would guarantee you it's happened before, there have been trucks across that bridge at the same time going the other way, and I guess you used to be the county guy, correct?
Yeah.
Yeah, and I would say, if you ask any engineering firm, they will tell you this load going across that bridge at a quarter mile an hour will do no damage to this bridge, but 2 trucks going across there at 24 ton at 55 mile an hour will do more damage than I would ever do to that bridge.
Right, I just wanted to clarify that the bridge is posted at 20.
I actually didn't know it was a total posting. I would assume it's a single lane because trucks only use single lane.
Well, ours is total load on the bridge.
Yeah.
So,
and I mean, I've known you for a long time. I mean, I've been doing this for 30 years. I would not be sitting here asking permission for this if I had a super load that weighed a lot. This thing's not. In fact, my gut feeling is this load won't even weigh this much, but I had to come up with some numbers for you guys to see.
Dick, this a similar agreement when we did the one up on County Road 29 when they moved the house across there.
Right. I can't make an exception when there's load restrictions that were put on by the board. Only the board can give permission.
Right.
Yeah, with reference to that one, Larry, I will tell you right now, that load was 4 times heavier than this one, but in that instance, the bridge was only a 32-foot bridge, so we had truck on, truck off, wheels on, wheels off. But the reason I'm before you today is because, as you know, this is actually pretty small house. If you look at the dimensions there, this whole thing is going to be on the bridge all at one time, just for your information. Okay. Yes, it is. And I know it's not your guys' concern by any means, but probably 5-6 years ago, Sioux Valley Energy buried every line on Old 77 from Highway 34 to the town of Brookings because we moved so many buildings on that road. And I'm not going to lie to you. I have other ways to go. I really want to use these bridges to move this house from point A to point B.
I'll move approval.
Second.
Further discussion?
If you have no problem with this, if
No,
we
and these
approve
are,
it,
I don't, and mainly with the bridges scheduled for replacement in the near future, and also to help answer Leanne's question on our permit also, it reiterates that any damage done is the responsibility of the mover. So I think it would be only prudent for us to approve and let him go across, and he's did his homework, so I think it's legit.
I haven't seen one of those permits. Is there something on there that, about him holding us harmless in the event that one of his employees is injured in an accident on the bridge? Or?
No.
I guess I just applaud you coming in before us and bringing this forward instead of just going across the bridge. So,
by the way, there have been people taking stuff across that bridge, but that's not how we do things at Telcom.
No, that's what I mean. I appreciate you coming in.
All right, are we done then?
Got a vote? Not yet.
Okay.
Mr. Breitzman, do you have any issue with that hold harmless language needing to be on the permit in the event there's an injury to an employee as a result of the overweight?
I don't believe so, because we've had a full discussion of the issue. They've assumed responsibility. There's a document for this request, and it's been granted, or I should say it's being considered based on what was submitted. So I think all the facts are in place that they would be responsible.
And that's your understanding, sir?
Yes. Yes.
Anybody else have any questions? Call the roll.
Miller,
Aye.
Krogman,
Aye.
Bartley,
Aye.
Jensen,
Aye.
Pierce,
Aye.
motion carries.
Have fun.
Thank you. Enjoy the cold weather while I'm gone.
Bring some heat back with you.
You can throw those on the trash if you want.
Hey,
Is that your planner?
That's Dick.
that's
I think.
Dick's.
Come on back up, Dick.
Thanks for having Ellen up, because with weight restrictions and our seasonal road weight restrictions, only the board can make exceptions to those. So I try my hardest, especially on bridges, because if we're not making a conscious effort to control that, we could possibly, by federal standards, lose our federal money for that. So it is very good to keep that in mind. The other things I have with these grants, to kind of reassure you that it seems to be a 3-year process no matter what. On our preservation and rehabilitation grant that we got in 2016, we applied for that in 2015, awarded in 2016. Work didn't start until 17, and just last week we got the final notice from the state of what will be the final billing. So, and that's a pretty small project compared to the bridges. So it is important that we keep this 3-year window kind of in mind. And also, if I am not clear when I'm explaining, like at our budget hearing coming up, I'll try my best to explain it so that you guys have a good understanding and you feel comfortable about what we're putting in the budget to cover these costs. The other thing that I think is really important to remember too is we've already completed the 2018 budget last year, obviously. Well, then when we got closer to the end of the year and we were going to be applying for these grants, we decided that we would put additional money towards those grants or structures. That was, we didn't budget for that. And so that's why this year I want to make sure that since they were awarded, that we're covering that aspect of it. So, again, if there's anything that seems foggy or not clear, I'd be glad to explain it. But I think that's the best way I can do, is just to show you that this is what we've got pending, this is what we've been awarded, this is what we're hoping to get. And fortunately, this year, for 2019, we won't have a large structure or anything, but we will be submitting enough to try to use the rest of our money available. So after we get a little more into this a few years down the road, I think it'll start to hopefully make sense, unless they change the rules in the middle of the game again like they.
Just part of the money that you have left over, the very bottom number, that 711, is that the number you're using? Because I think we're missing a number out of that. We're missing that very top number, the 2016 total, unless I'm wrong.
Well, see, on
Does that count towards it?
No. If you take, if you took, go to 2017, and the replacement grants we put in, we had the one for 238 and 239 both.
Right.
If you take 20% of those two, that's 600 and some thousand.
No, I'm talking the amount of money left in their grant of the $4 million.
Oh, I see.
Of the $4 million we have left.
Yes, 711,003, yes.
But I don't think that's correct. And I guess I could be wrong, but that bottom number shows 4 million minus the 2017 and 2018, and that equals the 711, but it doesn't take in effect the 2016, the 224,000.
I think that's because that will be beyond the 3-year window.
Okay.
Right,
So
7-Eleven
that
is,
won't go off.
that's what
Yes.
Doug told
Okay.
us
Yes.
That's what I
we
could,
had
okay.
left too.
Okay, that's what I wanted to see.
Yeah, and
So
that's
that
also
falls
a good
off.
point, Ryan, because after these 2 big ones were awarded, that was a big chunk of change. So when they drop off, it will give us a significant improvement, but until they drop off, it'll limit us a little bit.
So we'll never really, it's a running totals, we'll never really have 4 million available again.
No.
No, it's
No.
going to be as the years go. So these next couple of years will be kind of.
Yeah, unless we plan for it. Another thing that we want to remember in 2017 to increase the points for our bridges we wanted to get in 2018, we made that bid ready or shovel ready. That was over $136,000. The county committed to that because we did all the design, we did the the design, we did the borings, and we hired the state to do them when they were in working on the other bridge. So overall, it's a significant savings, plus it gave us additional points for that structure to be awarded. But in the future, as we're planning our strategy, we want to keep that in mind as to whether it's of value to input more money, whether it's to do it to get it shovel ready. I think we've got the emergencies, hopefully, knock on wood, we've got the emergencies out of the way within our system. We should be able to plan and strategically organize ourselves to handle what brings forth in the future. Now I never want to say never, but hopefully there won't be an extreme case where one would collapse or something that would change that plan.
This fall, they'll be doing inspections again, correct?
Yes. Yeah.
So-
Even numbers are for the large structures over 20 feet, and odd years are the.
So the 3 bridges that we're working on, are we thinking any of those will have bids and start working on this year, or is it everything looking like next year?
As far as I know, they've sent out the plans for review, and until they get them back, then the state will hand it over to bid letting. So I don't know many of those people, so I guess that would be the question I have to ask, is call out there and see if bid letting, I think they try to have them at least every month. So what their plans are, I don't know.
It would be nice if you could report back to us on that. So those 3 bridges, and this is where I get confused, those 3 bridges, what is in our 2018 budget for those 3? Nothing.
Nothing.
Okay. So there's nothing that'll carry over.
Well,
with
I
the-
guess we could,
Shouldn't the 2017 grant one, shouldn't that have been in the budget?
the 2017 grant, yes. See, that
That's one of
would
our
have
3
been,
bridges.
so.
Yeah, right.
Yes, you're right.
We
There's,
got that.
there's some. There, like I say, you could reduce it by like $215,000.
Okay.
So there was $215,000 of that money that was not spoken for.
So when we start looking at budget, then we're going to have 1.7 that we either take out of fund balance or out of next year's income, right?
Yes, yes.
And then we set aside that,
And that's-
right.
That's where I was spoken that.
Right.
This is just my opinion on it. I'd like to see that money come out of fund balance that we've saved up for and not try to fund it through taxpayer dollars next year.
Right.
Yes, there's
That's
about.
money we set aside.
There's about 4 million in fund balance in the highway, road and bridge fund, plus we have dollars set aside within the general fund for highway, highway and bridge purposes too. So there's money there to use outside of current tax dollars.
Yes.
And I'd like us, when we're looking at our budget documents, and in particular, when we're looking at our different fund balance categories, I think we could have a category that has match money for the big program, because then we would be able to look at it and have just a little bit better handle on what we've set aside and what we haven't set aside and all of that. I think we could tailor another 1 or 2 categories into our fund balance information that would help us track that.
We got one that says big grant matching. I don't know.
That's in the fund
Vicky-
balance?
Not in the
Wouldn't
fund
be in
balance,
fund
I'm sorry.
balance. It wouldn't be in fund balance because it's, that money is not in fund balance.
Right,
It would
exactly.
be in the budget document itself. And there is a line that you've added that says big grant match dollars
Big
within the
grant,
budget
it was
document.
$705,000 for 2018. And that's because at this time, or in May of 2017, I knew that we could have that commitment for those funds. And I figured if it did not come about, that would just carry over as we remember that that wasn't all spoken for and in future years. My thought is, in my opinion, Brookings County is never going to have to worry about the amount of money that will need to be spent on bridges, but without being responsible and remembering what we've already committed to, makes it easier to, and that's your guys's,
And I guess what I struggle with, and I think we talk about it enough to where we're pretty confident in it, but the liabilities that we have, that the money's not getting spent for 2 years almost 3
Correct.
years. And so we say 1.5 million out of fund balance back in 2017. And so then in 2019, we look at our fund balance and say, hey, we got 3 million there, but it's actually, we only have 1.5 million because 2 years ago, we put that money away. So is there a way to put something in there that has a liability, which is like,
I think
like
when
an
fund
accounts
balance,
receivable?
when fund balance, at the end of the year, when, dollars unspent roll into fund balance, we could do, and I don't know if we can show it actually in the general ledger itself, but manually, we could have a line that says, this amount roll from what was remaining in, for instance, the 2017 budget.
right.
It would roll into fund balance, but we could parse that out to say these dollars were dedicated towards this project.
That's still going
and
on.
then separate that out from the fund balance. It may not look like that specifically in the general ledger, but we could parse that out at year end to show you that these dollars went unspent. Now we have them in fund balance now in 2018, but
Well, and
we know they're sort of earmarked per se for a big project.
And I think when we're starting to get into these types of dollars, that's where we need to see that. I mean, and if we have a fund balance that a project for a culvert doesn't get through in 75,000, it's probably not as big a deal. But when we're appropriating 1.8, 1.5 million, we need to see that. I'd like to see what that liability is. I guess I call it a liability. Maybe it's I don't know, another word for it, or something like payables out or something like that, which you'd call it. But I think that'd be a good idea.
And I'd like to see, when we're looking at that fund balance chart that we're always looking at, that, for example, we have the category for the jail expansion, and I realize that's in a different fund, but you can look at that and you can see how much money we've committed of our fund balance to the jail project. I'd like to be able to look at that same form and see how much of fund balance in the 201 fund that we've committed to match monies, so we know what we have left to spend on other projects. And just, if we don't have it written down, it's hard to carry that number in your head. So
So would we call it match payables or
I just
match
think it would be
commitments?
big match.
Match commitment sounds good.
Okay. Well, then, next week, I'll be gone to the NACE conference in Wisconsin. And then also wanted to thank Steve for looking over my changes and rewrites that the legislature did in the 2018 session. Excellent help for me. And other than that, I think that does it. Unless you have any questions.
I have a question. So in claims today, there was an amount for construction out at the highway department. What was that specifically for?
Who was it to? Was that the one for gross construction?
Yeah, gross
Yeah.
construction.
That was for finishing the window on the south side and sealing it. So it was basically the stuff the guys couldn't do themselves. Everything else we did ourselves.
So I don't know that we've, or I missed it. What was done? I didn't hear about
We took out the old great big windows on the south side that were leaking air like crazy. And then we built in a different wood structure to fit a smaller 3-panel window like that are in the other offices. And then we just finished the outside with some cheap tin siding to make it look like it belonged. That was about it.
Anybody else have any questions?
Oh, and that included the materials too. He took care of everything.
It was a remodel of the office, the front office space.
I just didn't remember that was in the budget.
Yeah, that's under supplies. What's the bottom one? Office and materials?
Repairs and maintenance or supplies materials?
Not repairs and maintenance. It was under, we have $15,000 a year to put for tools and office equipment and furniture, I believe it's called.
Thank you. Anybody else have any questions? All right. Then I think we've got time. We're going to move on to regular business. And item number A is first reading of an ordinance. So it's first reading of Brookings County Ordinance 2018-3, an ordinance providing for the amendment of Ordinance 2015-03, whereas Brookings County previously adopted Ordinance 2015-03, which readopted the 1997 revised zoning ordinance in accordance with Chapter 11-2, whereas the Brookings County, South Dakota Board of County Commissioners deems it's necessary for the purpose of promoting the health, safety, and the general welfare of the county to amend Ordinance 2015-03 by repealing the following articles. Article 12, Commercial Industrial Districts. Article 13, Lake Park Districts. Article 14, Natural Resources Districts. Article 15, Flood Damage Prevention. Article 16, Aquifer Protection, and replacing said articles with Article 4, a copy of which is attached hereto, District Requirements, Chapter 4.02, CI, Commercial Industrial Districts, Chapter 4.03, LP, Lake Park Districts, Chapter 4.04, Natural Resource Districts, Chapter 4.05, Flood Damage Prevention, Chapter 4.06, just a minute, I lost it, 4.06, Aquifer Protection, and repealing the conflicting ordinances. Therefore, be it ordained by Brookings County, South Dakota, that Ordinance 2015-03 is hereby amended, repealing the following articles. Article 12, Commercial Industrial Districts. Article 13, Lake Park District. Article 14, Natural Resources Districts. Article 15, Flood Damage Prevention. Article 16, Aquifer Protection, and replacing said articles with Article 4, a copy of which is attached hereto, District Requirements, Chapter 4.02, CI, Commercial Industrial Districts, Chapter 4.03, LP, Lake Park Districts, Chapter 4.04, Natural Resource Districts, Chapter 4.05, Flood Damage Prevention, Chapter 4.06, Aquifer Protection, and the repealing of conflicting ordinances. And the second reading and the public hearing on this ordinance will be held on May 15th, 2018 at 9:30 in the morning. Item B, action to approve Resolution 18-12, a resolution revising Resolution 03-18, a resolution authorizing the use of credit cards by county employees under restricted guidelines.
Move approval.
Second.
Discussion?
somebody want to talk a little bit about it?
Our original ordinance, or resolution, pardon me, spoke, this was the one back that was passed back in '03. It really only spoke to use of credit cards for travel and conference. That is not what we're doing any longer. Yes, we still use them for travel and conference, but we also use them for a number of other things. So I went out and researched some other counties, what their policy was, and drafted this policy that reflects exactly what we're using them for and how we use them in the process that we go through for turning in receipts and in getting the bills paid and whatnot. And I did have Mr. Brightsman look it over and review it with me before presenting it to you. But this updates the resolution so it reflects what we're actually doing.
Any further discussion? Call the roll.
Krogman?
Aye.
Bartley?
Aye.
Jensen?
Aye.
Miller?
Aye.
Pierce?
Aye.
Motion carries.
It is 9:30, and we'll proceed with the scheduled agenda item B, which is review of the 2017 annual report.
Good morning.
Good morning.
I'm not sure how much detail you want me to go into, so I'll just start, and if I've got too much, you can tell me, or too little, you can tell me.
For our viewing public, would you just state your name, please?
My name is Brenda Colomb, and I contract with Brookings County for accounting services.
Thank you.
Just tell us all the good stuff, no bad stuff.
Oh, I'm not the auditor anymore, so I can't tell you the bad stuff. We're going to start in the back, Exhibit 4, because that's where one of the first schedules that we do. So Schedule 4 is a statement of revenues, expenditures, and changes in fund balance. Exhibit 4 and Exhibit 3 are called your fund financial statements, and they're called that because they are reported by fund. You have major funds, and then you have other governmental funds. Your general fund is always a major fund, no matter what. It's always reported as a major fund. Your road and bridge fund almost always is a major fund. Courthouse building can be a major fund. It's depending on the activity in the fund, whether it's a major fund or not. So your courthouse building fund, you had your $975,000 payment to OIC. So you had large dollar amounts. And so that moved it into a major fund. Your other governmental funds then are like your 911, your 24/7 emergency management. Those are all grouped together in that column. And then they're reported by major fund types, and I don't think I need to go through all those, but in your accounting system, all those are broke out like they are on this annual report. Your expenditures are broke down again by different function levels, your general government, your public safety, public works, which would be your highways and bridges, health and welfare, culture and recreation is the next one, urban and economic development. So, and all those accounts underneath there are part of those functions. Then you go to other financing sources. which would be your transfers in, transfers out, if you had any debt issue, sale of county property, you have some. Okay, then you have your net change in fund balance. Your fund balance actually is just the residual effect of what happens with your revenues and expenditures. And that fund balance carries over every year. So you have a beginning fund balance, which is what you ended up with last year. And then based on the revenues and expenditures, you know, there's the change in that fund balance. So you have your ending fund balance by fund. Any questions?
And I think during one of Rod Fortin's presentations out the state, I think he said the first thing he always looks at on the annual statement is the net change in fund balance to see if that has gone up or down. And I've kind of, if you can see where it's right here. So about 1.6 million increase in fund balance in the general fund, 350,000 in road and bridge, just over 80,000 in courthouse, and then 27,000 in other. So 2.1 million overall fund balance increase.
Right, but that could be stuff that's just not spent yet.
That could be things that were budgeted for in 2016 that were not spent in 2017. Exactly. It could be.
Or an increase in revenues.
Yes.
Right, exactly. But that's where I was wondering about that bridge stuff, that if there was, you know, all of a sudden 1.5 million that is shown at the end of the year. So for example, if we budget for next year 1.5 million for those bridges, and then they don't get done in that year, which they're not going to get done in that year, our fund balance is going to continue to go up. But that 1.5 million is there a way that we can pull that out of our fund balance to show that it's a liability or it's a commitment?
No, you still have to leave it in fund balance, but you can assign it for that purpose. You can assign it for any project you want.
Right, but it's already it's already appropriated.
It's already in the fund balance, yes.
Okay.
But if we assigned it, then you would be able to see it, and it would be in the total. But if you had an actual line item, then you could see that that isn't the savings account. We've already got to use that for this project. So if we assigned it for a specific project, then you could see that.
Right, but in my mind, there's a difference between assigned funds. We have some assigned funds right now for jail expansion that it's not used. We're just assigning it. But if there's fund balance left over that was budgeted for, in my mind, it's already spoken for. It's not something we can appropriate. It's already out of there. So it's almost a liability rather than an assignment. You know what I mean? We've already taxed for it. We've already brought extra money in for that. It's not an extra fund balance that we can spend. So I didn't know if there was a way to try to figure that out, because, you know, we have to have our fund balance under a certain amount, but, you know, at the end of the year, it'll say we put $2 million in our fund balance, but actually we didn't, because there's 1.5 that has to go in 2 years to 2 bridges.
Are you assigning it in the general fund or in the road and bridge fund?
Either or, I guess it doesn't matter to me where we do it. It's just, I just look at it an assignment as something that is available for us to use down the road for the projects, where if it's already been appropriated for, it's just not spent yet. To me, that's a different pot of cash.
But I think the action that needs to happen is an assignment of that fund balance.
Okay.
And I think you can call it assigned for big match money or big match projects or something to show that it's not extra money that you've just set aside for a future project for whatever. But I think you call it what it is. You call it big, you know, bridge improvement grant match funds. Expense or something. Yeah, whatever you want to call it. But the action that the board would need to take is still an assignment. It's just how that.
Right.
I don't think you can pull it out and just set it aside, and that's the action the board needs to take is an assignment. It may not sound right in your mind, because what we've done with assignments in the past is kind of extra money that we've had available that we've assigned to different things, and it's really not a specific project. This would be for specific projects.
And I think, and I think that whether you call it an assignment, a payable, or a commitment, I think it'd like to be identified by year. In other words, 2016, 2017, 2018, so that we can look back and say, okay, we made that commitment in 2016, we haven't paid it yet, but it's still payable or a commitment or an assignment. But I'd like to see it identified by year, so rather than one total amount, just yearly commitments that we've made. I don't know what you call it, Steve, if it's a payable, if it's a commitment, or if it's an assignment.
Could it be a reserve or an encumbrance would be two words that come to my mind.
Yeah. But if we identify it by year, then it's easiest for us to look at it and say, we did that.
And then it would be very easy to unassign it and do the supplemental budget in order to say we're using funds out of, big match money from 2017, and it's that dollar amount, and that's what we're unassigning. We do the supplemental budget, to bring that in so we can spend it in that year that needs to be spent. So, yeah, I think we can go back and do that.
We don't seem to know when we're going to spend it. It's the problem.
Okay, any other questions on this exhibit? Okay, let's go to Exhibit 3 then, which is your balance sheet. So here again, it's by fund, your three major funds and your other governmental funds. So your assets include your cash, your investments, any accounts receivable, taxes receivable. There's due from other governments, which would be like your, from the state. There's all kinds of things that come in January from the state. Inventory supplies, which is in the Road and Bridge Fund. The deposits listed on there are the deposit for the public insurance pool that you have. And then that $52,000 deposit is actually your guarantee money on your land here that you bought. And then there's also that $400,000 note receivable from the city of Brookings. Okay, then you can go to your liabilities. Claims payable, of course, those things that are due at the end of the year that you don't get till January, but they should be part of your budget for 2017. Accrued wages payable, payroll withholding payable, and your compensated absences, which is only the current portion of that. Your deferred inflows is actually your taxes receivable at the end of the year, your delinquent taxes receivable. And then you get down to fund balance. So here we have the different types of fund balances, the non-spendables, which is that deposit in the general fund, the inventory in the Road and Bridge Fund, and then the long-term portion of that notes receivable in the courthouse building fund, $300,000. Your restricted funds, those are all in your other governmental funds. Because any special revenue fund, which would be your Road and Bridge and all your other funds, except your general fund and your capital projects fund, are restricted funds by nature because they're by law that you have those funds. So those amounts are restricted unless you've assigned some of those dollars or you've transferred in money from the general fund into those funds. So then we get down to our assigned fund balance. And unassigned in the general fund. Any questions on that? Now, in your accounting system, that assigned dollar amount, you can list different assignments, like you were talking. But on your financial statements, it's all grouped together. Okay? All right. Then we go to Exhibit 2, which is your statement of activities. And Exhibit 1 and Exhibit 2 are called your government-wide financial statements. These statements are reported by function area. So all those different accounts you had under, like general government, which would be commissioners, finance office, you know, a bunch of them are all then grouped together under the one line for general government. And of course, public safety, public works, health and welfare, culture and recreation, conservation of natural resource, urban and economic development. Your intergovernmental there is your wheel tax payments. Now we include depreciation for capital assets and your interest on long-term debt. Those are all called program revenues by function area. And we get down to general revenues, and all your property taxes are added together, your wheel tax revenue, state shared revenues, the money you get to keep from the state. Your grants and contributions, now that's a large number this year, and only because when you bought the outdoor adventure center, you bought it for $975,000, but we actually added it to your capital asset at $3 million, I think, $3.2 million or something. So that big dollar amount is the difference between those. And there's a few other things that are in there too. So, investment earnings and miscellaneous revenue. So now this is reported as net position instead of fund balance. So all those fund balance amounts plus what we've added for capital assets, what we've taken away for your debt, you have a new number which is called net position of $49 million. It's just the terminology. That change in infrastructure capital assets, that adjustment is for a bridge that was completed in 16, and we hadn't added it in 16, so we adjusted it here. Questions on that? Okay. And your last statement is called your statement of net position. This is like your balance sheet. You have your assets, you have your liabilities, and now you have net position. So if you go back up to assets, now we've added land improvements and construction in progress number there and other capital assets of almost $29 million. Deferred outflows of resources. That's related to the South Dakota retirement system. It's a huge calculation that we do, and it's based on the timing because the state has a different year end than you do. They're done in June, you're done in December, so there's a timing difference between your consumption and your acquisition of net positions. Then you get to your liabilities, accounts payable, other current liabilities, and then we add the debt payable, what's due in 1 year and what's due in more than 1 year. So that's your certificates and your compensated absences. Pension-related deferred inflows, again, has to do with that South Dakota retirement system calculation. Net investment in capital assets, that's your capital assets less the amount of debt that's related to the capital assets. So that debt that you have, I don't know, what's 1.3 or something that you have left, something like that, is taken away from those capital assets that you've seen above. So it's your net investment in capital assets. Then you have your restricted amounts. The other purposes is all those other governmental funds. And then your unrestricted, which includes all your assigned balances plus your unrestricted from your general fund. So your total net position again is $49 million. So, clear as mud?
Any questions?
Back up on the assets, I didn't say anything, but there's a net pension asset there of $21,000. That changes every year. Last year you had a net pension liability, and that's all based on the South Dakota retirement calculations. So only in the last few years we've had to report that based on GASB standards. So those are your numbers. When your auditor comes, you know, they always seem to find something, so hopefully it won't be too bad.
Well, this was very timely. We had been out for training, and it was time for our annual report to get published, and we really appreciate your coming today.
Oh, thank you.
Thank you very much.
I'm going to Florida, by the way. So that guy's going to Mexico. I'm going to Florida.
And thank you for working with us in Brookings County
Yep.
for what you have and what you've done for us. We really appreciate it, and
Thanks.
thank you for your service.
Next, we're going to proceed with scheduled item C, Windsor Township funding request. Is there someone here to speak on this issue? Would you come on up, have a seat at the table, talk into the microphone, and say your name, and then tell us what it is that you're asking for?
My name is Josh Spildy, and I'm with Windsor Township, and we have a couple box culverts that remain in the township, and we are just wondering if there's any kind of financial assistance with removing them.
Questions?
I guess, Dick, have you viewed these structures? And
Right, there's the day I was up there is quite a high water level, so I couldn't see the total, you know, how, with the condition of the structures, but they were both built in 1939, so they're going to be 80 years old next year. They're very narrow. One thing I shared with Josh is with these new guidelines that they went through in this legislature, anytime you replace any culvert whatsoever, it needs to have a 24-foot top on the road, which would add considerably to these two projects. Other than that, I don't, and they're both on gravel surface township roads. Other than that, I don't know much more than that.
and they're over the 16 square feet, so.
Yes, yep, they meet the criteria. It's just that when you go out normally, if it's a drier year or drier time of year, you can see the integrity and any spalling and whatever of the concrete, or if there's bad cracks. The wing walls appear intact. They have the high cement walls for guardrail type things that are next to impossible for any size farm equipment to cross.
Mm-hmm.
But that's, and I believe what Josh, on his estimate, I think he's planning on replacing with metal corrugated pipe.
You know, 40 foot at each site.
Yep.
Out of these culvert prices, are these buying these through the county then?
Well, yeah, I told him we don't get any big break on them, but he used our prices.
Okay.
So are you asking us to pay for all of them, or?
I'm just here asking, well, if you would, I'd definitely
Yeah.
take it.
You
But
take it, yeah.
we're just here discussing what our options are, because we've been getting a lot of complaints from the local ag producers saying that they can't get their equipment through, and then we're looking at it as a preventive maintenance kind of deal, where how does that read when those when the cement is sticking up right off the side of the road? I mean, that's technically something in the right of way. If somebody was to hit that, it'd be an insurance liability, I would assume.
Don't we have a new law? What are we obligated to do?
That's the six.
Right now, with the new thing, we're just obligated to negotiate on what participation each party will know up front, so that each understands exactly what will be paid for and how much.
And then who would oversee the project? Say, for example, we were to participate. Is that something that the township then would handle the whole project, or does that then shift onto you?
That it can be a number of ways, whatever way we would feel most comfortable with. Generally speaking, if they put together a project and had a quote and we just participated as a financial help, that would probably be the easiest for us. As far as them doing, lining up on getting the hydraulics done and all that stuff, it would probably be easier with our contacts to, have us do that type of stuff. But we did it a number of ways, to make a long story short. There's been times we've donated used pipe that they could use and they put in. We've dug in some if they bought the pipe. But now it kind of clearly states that it must be, especially on the ones over 16 square feet, as Larry touched on, it should be negotiated ahead of time.
Yeah. I mean, in the past, just like Dick said, donated the pipe, the township put the culverts in, or vice versa. They bought the pipe and we put the culverts in. I mean, it's negotiable, and like Dick said, we should have it documented up front.
Anything this big, we wouldn't be able to do
Right.
ourselves, because they're just too large.
Well, does that bring up an issue down the road if something happens to this and it's a township road and we put the improvement in, then us as a county are liable for an improvement on that township road type of thing? If the contractor makes a mistake or any of that kind of stuff, where if we gave funds and you ran the project, ran the thing, and the contractor makes an issue, you as the township have to handle it because it's your road. If we did it, then we take some liability of putting that in and the stuff too. So, I wonder if, for us, if we're going to participate in this, that we would do funds rather than be a project manager, install it, or something like that, in my opinion, on a township road.
But
The only question I have about that is the problem that we have in Madera Township with those culverts that were installed. And I know this was 30 years ago or whatever, but they were installed at the wrong height, and that's a big contributing factor to the water problem that we're working with in Madera. Is there, and I agree, I'd prefer that we gave money, but is there some way to be sure that the project is done correctly?
Yeah, this rewrite in the legislative session cleared that up. You must do your drainage investigation ahead of time, and that will set the flow line. Then whoever the contractor is would have to abide by that elevation, and that would be their guideline. So that's about the only way you'd be assured it was done. I think Stephanie would remember when the culverts were put in at Lake Sinai. There was a clear example of where you didn't want to vary any from the elevation set by the engineers. And this would fall into place as what Josh is asking. We could give them some help, but as we get involved, it isn't just something quite as simple as that, if you're going to make sure everything is done right. However, usually I would say, it gets down to who has the better lawyer if there's something that comes up, because it's it's kind of a toss-up. So I don't know.
Is that type of engineering already in this estimate here?
I didn't understand that, Mike. What?
The type of engineering you're talking about that we could help with, is that included in your estimates now, or is that an additional
That
expense?
would be additional.
And do we have any idea what that amount of money would be?
I would say usually it runs right around $2,500 to $2,700.
Okay, so not an extreme amount, but that would be something that if we would contribute that's not in his estimates already,
Right.
does that then open us up for that liability? Or do we just appropriate that money and let them contract for those services?
Mr. Brightsman, I guess this is the question. If we give the township money to use for the project and make the gift of the money subject to them obtaining proper engineering for the project, do you think that gives us any liability?
No, I don't. Not a funding offer such as that, no.
Would there be a problem if we do cash donations subject to the engineering being added on to make sure that the culverts are set at the right height?
No, I don't believe there'll be any problems with that. And like I said, if we can get whatever criteria is, a list of the criteria that needs to be made as far as the height and this 24-foot, that was, I don't believe on this estimate, there might be a little bit higher, because I think after we got their estimate, he had said about the 24-foot versus I think it's 20-foot typically, but it might be slightly higher. But we're just here asking if there's anything, and we don't know all the steps. This is just kind of our first step, and we did what was asked of us, and we're just kind of negotiating it right now.
I guess at this point, I'd like to see you and Richard go back and figure out exactly what the cost would be, additional cost would be to guarantee that this is engineered correctly, and then come back with a concrete proposal, what you'd ask for our participation, rather than us negotiating it up here. Come back with at least a concrete proposal of dollar amount that would include that provision, and then we could approve it, or not, or we could modify it at that point. But right now, it's just kind of like we're throwing things up in the air, and I don't know where the dollar amount should end. So I'd like to see something more concrete on the engineering process and what your request would be financially. What percentage or what dollar amount?
Sounds good.
Anybody else have a comment? Okay.
I just say I'd look for participating in purchase of the pipe.
And what about the dollar amount? I was trying to break that out. What's the cost for the pipe?
Roughly a little over 7,000 per pipe, but it could change with the 24-foot top of the road. Because you must have used 20 foot for the top of the road, correct? When you measured the.
I think that's the typical length, and I know on this bid the culverts are 36 foot, and I know a lot of the times when we buy when we get the culverts from the county building here in town, we get two 20-footers. So I don't know if the extra four foot, are we going to need the extra 4 foot if we go to the 24-foot top? So yeah, and
You might even need more.
Yeah.
Yep.
So is it a consensus that we're willing to participate? We don't know the dollar amount because we don't have the engineering information yet. Is that what I'm hearing everybody say?
Yeah.
And we would invite you to come back, and I think I heard you say that would work for you. Is
Yeah,
that
that'd
right?
work. I don't know how Richard would like to communicate, email or whatever. Just give me the criteria and I can hand it into the excavator and we can get a new number and we'll go from there.
Okay.
Okay.
All right, thanks guys.
Thank you for coming.
You bet.
Our next matter is item number
Our 10 o'clock.
We have 10
right,
o'clock.
10 o'clock. The Boulevard Tree Project, discussion and possible action to approve a request for funding for the Boulevard Tree Project. And if you'd come forward and say your name on the record and then tell us what it is that you're asking for.
Good morning, County Commissioners. Thank you for hearing us. My name is Jameson Barrett. I serve as the alumni advisor to the Delta Chi fraternity here in town.
And I'm Gunnar Snell. I'm heading the Brookings Boulevard project this year.
This project, as you may know, is something that's been going on in the community for a few years now. We're both new to the project. I, as the old person on here, am responsible for helping to provide some continuity from year to year and helping to find students who are able to run this project. Gunnar is a new student this year, and he's going to be running it for us. And I'll let him walk us through some of what he's planning to do with the project.
Okay, so when I first started the project, I didn't really know what I was getting into. I was just doing it to try something new in college. But throughout it, I've been learning a lot of stuff, like why we're planting trees. There's a bug called the emerald ash borer that destroys ash trees, and ash trees make up a majority of the trees in the United States. So what we're trying to do with this project is bring 60 new trees into Brookings every year, the city and the surrounding communities. And this year we have 20 royal maples, 20 emerald busters, and then 20 oak trees. So I've been going around Brookings asking people if they would like trees planted on their boulevard with the help of the city and the Rotary Club. So we are just here to get $500 from the county to help with this project.
Are these all in Brookings City, or are you reaching out to the small communities?
We're trying to reach out to Volga and White this weekend and sell there.
Do we have a motion?
Do we have any financial data on the project, what the costs and what you're going to provide? Do we have any of that we can look at here? Give us some, I mean, $500, but what's your total budget? What's your expenses? What's your ratio here?
Sure. To provide some more funding background, the Rotary Club is a great partner for this project, and they have committed to $1,500 in a grant for this project. The Delta Chi members, with the Gunnar being the lead, put $900 towards that project. And where that $900 comes from is through selling the trees. So their work and their time and energy to go out and actually sell those trees at $15 a piece. And then the Brookings City has also contributed $500 to the project. The last $500 here from the county would be enough to finish off the project, and I believe that's what has been requested and received in previous years, so it's in line with that. As you can imagine, $15 for a tree is a great deal, so when Gunnar goes around selling these trees, people are usually pretty excited about that, and it really helps to continue making Brookings a great and green city for this area here, as well as the other communities. I have another hat, so I have some connections in Volga, so we can certainly help with that.
I would encourage the sale of trees in the smaller communities very, very much. I'll make a motion that we give you $500 to plant these trees.
Any further discussion? Easy.
If you've read my staff report, we have given to this in the past at a greater amount, and I think maybe they've gotten some funds from other sources now this year. So, but we have given to this in 2014, 2015. We didn't get a request, but we've done it in 2014, 2016, and 2017.
Any further discussion? All in favor say aye.
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 Opposed? Motion passes. Thank you.
Thank you for doing this.
Next, we have regular business, item C, action to approve agreement 18-43, a letter of contract for professional engineering services between Brookings County and Banner Associates for structure 06-280-116.
Move approval.
Second.
Dick, anything you'd like to add?
These are the small structures that we're doing this summer.
Any discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. Item D, action to approve agreement 18-44, a letter of contract for professional engineering services between Brookings County and Banner Associates, Inc. for structure 06-141-180.
Move approval.
Second.
Second.
Any further discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. Item E, action to approve agreement 18-45, a right-of-way certificate for project number BRF 63610017-1, PCN 06H7 in Brookings County for structure 06-150-219.
Motion approved.
Second.
Anything on this, Dick?
These are forms that are required by the state, and basically they just say that there are no problems with the right-of-way, and there are no, the ones down the line are going to say there's no problems with easements or anything like that, or utilities, just a formality. But they're for the preservation grants that we'll be doing this summer.
Any further discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. Item F, action to approve Agreement 18-46, a right-of-way certificate for project number BRO 8006-0017-2, PCN 06H8 in Brookings County for structure 06176-050.
Move approval.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. Item G, action to approve Agreement 18-47, a right-of-way certificate for project number BRF 63170017-3, PCN 06H9 in Brookings County for structure 06-220-190.
Move approval.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. Item H, action to approve Agreement 18-48, a utility certificate for project number BRF 63610017-1, PCN 06H7 in Brookings County for structure number 06150-219.
Move approval.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. Item I, action to approve Agreement 18-49, a utility certificate for project number BRO 8006-0017-2, PCN 06H8 in Brookings County for structure number 06176-050.
Move approval.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. Item J, action to approve Agreement 18-50, utility certificate for project number BRF 63170017-3, PCN 06H9 in Brookings County for structure number 06220-190.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. Item K, action to approve a request to fill vacancy for a heavy equipment operator in the Highway Department.
Second.
Dick, would you want to tell us anything about this?
This is the blade operator that's located out of Bruce, and he resigned, and so we'll be looking to fill that position. It'll be a heavy equipment operator position.
Any discussion?
Dick, I just had a question. The people, I guess the operators that are doing these outside shops, per se, do you have any requirements or anything that they be able to respond to the said shop within a certain amount of time, or?
Well, I just try to make it for my benefit. Who would ever fill that in the interview process, I try to make it extremely clear that it's very important that they have to be able to respond.
Because it is an important position. I mean, it's not only for the local fire departments in that area, the ambulances, especially in a blizzard situation. If they get called, I mean, they have to be there and, basically lead the ambulance or the fire trucks to the emergency. And like I said, it's an important position.
Sure. The person that resigned from this position, one of the reasons, probably a priority of why he was chosen, because he lives in Bruce. However, I don't think it's any mystery that we don't have people really lined up to live in Sinai or Bruce or
Yep.
White. We try, and it would sure be a great fit.
Yeah.
But if it don't work out, I guess I would still rather fill the position or make it important that they do. We got to have them there. That's it.
Yep.
Any further discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Item L, action to automatically supplement for unanticipated expenses incurred and reimbursement made to Brookings County in the amount of $7,000 for reimbursement from insurance for totaled sheriff's vehicle to GL line 1014-211-4260, receipt number 38143.
Second.
Anybody have anything to say on this matter?
That's just the money that we got
Yeah,
back when
this-
the car was totaled.
Yeah. I think Marty's talked about that the
Yeah.
last couple meetings, that
Yep.
there was a sheriff's vehicle that was told he was waiting to get that insurance reimbursement back.
Slid in front of a truck.
And we'll do a roll call on that.
Bartley?
Aye.
Jensen?
Aye.
Miller?
Aye.
Krogman?
Aye.
Pierce?
Aye.
Motion carries.
Item M, action to appoint a Planning and Zoning Commission District 2 representative to fill the remaining 2 years, 8 months of a 4-year term.
I move to appoint Chad Ford.
Second.
Discussion?
I think it's good to be noted that we did have 3 applicants, and it's good to see multiple applicants for a position. Once in a while, that doesn't happen, so I'm glad to see that we had 3 good applicants.
So, Commissioner Miller, I just had a question on the person that you nominated. I think his document said that he served on the weed board. Is that-
Not since I have been.
Not since you were there?
No.
Okay. Any further discussion? We'll do a roll call vote.
Jensen?
Aye.
Miller?
Aye.
Krogman?
Aye.
Bartley?
Aye.
Pierce?
Aye.
Motion carries.
Commission Department Director report.
I handed out, I handed out a couple things this morning. The first was that information from, I think Doug Wussel provided that on the big applications and the money from year to year. That kind of spells that out. So it was in the packet, but I also thought it would be nice just for each of you to have a hard copy of that as well. So I handed that out this morning. Did hear from Chuck Cecil and provided us an update on the items that the commission surplused and then donated to the museum, some of the highway items. He has them now, most of them, displayed in the main museum building over in Volga. And he said several items fit better with other displays or are being stored for now. He also indicated that he had several old pictures of highway work with horses, a map of the roads in the county, and a sign that says how many roads and bridges the county crew maintains. And he did extend an invitation for everyone to come take a look, probably this summer when it's open, but to come and see that. Also this morning I handed out the surplus cash analysis for March. As Vicki said, we ended at 10.74, which is kind of right in line, kind of in the middle of the road from where we typically are. So I think we're in good shape. And April, it should jump up after the first half taxes have been paid. And then just a couple dates that were on. One that was provided to me yesterday, this Friday, April 20th, Elkton Fire Department is having their county feed. The social starts at 5:30 and the meal will follow that, and that's at the community center over in Volga. And again, that's this Friday, April 20th, starting at 5:30. And then the other date, we already did the city manager meet and greet yesterday. And then coming up May 14th, you also all received an invitation for Project Search graduation. That's at 7 p.m. at the SDSU Student Union Market area. And that's all I have, unless you have any questions for me.
Elkton.
Elkton's, yeah,
And
the
then you
Elkton
said
Fire
Volga,
Department.
so I got confused. It's
I
in
said Volga?
Both.
Elkton?
So it's
It's Elkton, sorry.
Elkton.
It's Elkton this Friday at 5:30 at the community center in Elkton.
And they typically serve steak.
State.
Anything else? Any questions for Stacy? State's Attorney's Office report?
Just briefly, I've had contact with the successful bidders on the county surplus property sales, and we expect to close both of those transactions this week. So I think everything will be finished by the end of the week.
Thank you. Anything else? Okay. Commissioner reports. Commissioner Jensen, would you want to start?
On Tuesday the 3rd at 3 o'clock, Ryan and myself met with a train representative out of Sioux Falls, discussed some pressure and operating issues out there with the heating and cooling system. Kind of just walked through and explained what the issues were, and we kind of figured out just some things that were being done wrong, why the pressures in the shooting range and the viewing area was being, I guess, compromised. It was a very informative meeting with him. So on Wednesday, the 4th, met over in Volga with their city manager, the mayor, some of the street department employees. Dick was also there. Talked about Samara Avenue over there, their new construction project they're moving forward with. I think Dick's going to work with them a little more and get some final numbers on it. And they're looking for some participation from the county. Not sure the dollar amount or anything yet. So it was just basically a pre-construction meeting, kind of. So on the 9th, attended the post-legislative luncheon from 12 o'clock to 1. At 1:30, had a jail expansion meeting. BKV brought a couple additional design people, gave some presentations and renditions of some options. Our jail expansion committee had some suggestions. We kind of basically, there was 3 options, and we went through them and the good and the bad in each one of them, and I believe they're going to bring back some kind of a final option with our input to look at in the future. The 10th, we had our equalization meeting at 6:30 that evening. I went out and had a promotion and expansion committee meeting with the 4-H. We're at a couple activities that moving forward with for achievement days. Kind of interesting. There's a new program that's called iLead. It's basically a livestock showmanship for youth with disabilities. They're trying to work that into the achievement days schedule. It'll take a few hours, but we're trying to get it worked in somehow. They've done it in other counties, and it's well receptive, and a lot of kids come in and do it. We'd like to kind of get an idea how many numbers we'll have. That would so we kind of know how much time we need to do it. But that was one of the future projects. And the other one, there is going to be a photography contest. This is additional between the 4-H project. This is be open to the public. It's kind of more or less past and present. Individuals will be able to submit 2 photos, past and present, hopefully having to do with 4-H or something in that nature. But the Promotion Expansion Committee are going to run the photography contest and judge it. So it's something new we're trying. Then I guess that's all I have. I did have 2 calls on the road going south of the gun club. One is a homeowner there, and the other one is a township supervisor. A lot of semis are using that road. They do have a sign on the south end directing Novita traffic not to use it, but in my opinion, these truckers are coming off the bypass, getting on 14, and they're getting to the gun club, and that's what their GPS is telling them to go south there. It's kind of a township issue. Maybe they should have a better sign on the north end. There is not a sign there directing traffic, but I try to avoid that road because of the railroad crossing. But the other night I started taking it, and then I met numerous semis going that way. So the road's not designed for semis. So I told them I'd bring it to the commissions. So that's all I have.
The issue with Crane out at the BCOAC, is that something that's going to be fixable? Is it?
Yep.
And to expand on it too, they thought they had the issue fixed, and then they had issues again, and then they found out one of the main fans was malfunctioning, not consistently going. It was intermittently going, and so they said it's basically need to be replaced. And so it's kind of something that needed to be done. So Robert went ahead and did that. I think it's a $1,500 to $2,000 fan that needs to be done. But I also think we have that, we'd qualify for those funds that we have with GF&P that have the 75-25% match on that, because we're not installing anything new. It's just maintenance and repairs for that range. So I think it would qualify, but they think they got it figured out. There were doors being left open, and that's an issue when you have different HVA systems in different areas. And so when you were opening doors all the way through, it would cause doors to slam and almost became a safety hazard a little bit.
Yep.
So he explained what needs to be done. And so the RSOs and Robert will make sure that certain doors are left open at a, not, they can be going in and out. It's just they can't be left open.
Yep. And then one of the deals was when somebody comes in and starts up the range, they need to start up the range, wait like 15 minutes, then all the calibrations in the computer are made so the air is being calibrated. Before, if you went in, turned the switch on, and went in like 5 minutes, that would disrupt the sensors. So it was informative.
Thank you. Any other questions for Commissioner Jensen?
Yes, I have one. What would the township want us to do about this semi-problem?
Well, I don't see where, it's a township road.
Okay.
It needs to be, in my opinion, it needs to be signed with better signs. That was the one homeowner that lived there. He says there's a sign on the south end, but it looks like a rummage sale sign. It's a temporary sign with sandbags on it. It's not an official sign. I feel the township should put no truck traffic or something up there.
But I think part of it though is you're right. Because I drove by it and looked at it, and that sign that's on the south one is very noticeable. I mean, it sticks out. It's a big sign. I'm guessing it's working because they'll just keep going to the east there. Problem is like Commissioner Jensen said, the ones that are coming off that haven't been there before, coming off of the interstate, taking Highway 14, they take a right. They had no idea that they shouldn't go that way, or that there's probably even a paved road that they're supposed to use.
Right.
And so I think one of those signs, whether it's, I just want one that's noticeable. I don't want a little blue sign like this big sitting next to you. You're not going to see it. That one they have out there is big and noticeable. If they could put another one of those right there saying no truck traffic to use this, and have an arrow use alternative route or use proposed route, I think would be helpful. And I don't know if we can talk to them about that. You know,
The homeowner did say that he was in correspondence with an official at Novita working on the project. So I just feel they need to get together and put some sign on the north end, because that's the trucks that I met were all coming from the north. So
Commissioner Miller.
On April 4th, I met also with Commissioner Jensen and Vaga. They need to have an idea what we are willing to contribute before they can even move forward with their street project. They need monetary help. So I think it would be prudent for us to get a figure in our minds to discuss with what we would be comfortable providing over there. And they are willing to then take over that road once it's done if we all work together to get this accomplished. So I think it's something we need to be thinking about because they do want to go forward. On April 5th, I had Joint Powers. Mary Kidweiler is the new chair. We have to move our boiler switches due to code. I don't know how they got in the wrong place in the first place. Shouldn't have happened. And then Kim York of CTS Group gave us a presentation on energy savings in this building. And it appears as though we could save quite a bit of money, but of course it's going to cost us in order to do that. That afternoon I went to a ribbon cutting for the new fire station on South Main. That's a very nice fire station. And I'm glad we have one in our neighborhood now. On April 9th, I attended the post-legislative luncheon, followed by the jail expansion, where we received renderings from BKV, and they're coming up with a fourth rendering that has to do with all of the changes that we discussed in the others. On April 10th, we had the Board of Adjustment for Appeals, and on April 12th, I attended the farmhouse dinner, which I sat with some delightful gentlemen, and we had a wonderful time. And they asked about me, which normally young people don't care what old people are doing. But they were a little surprised when I told them I was a motorcycle mama. And we had a lot of conversation after that about Sturgis. So it was interesting, and I like going to those and talking to those young people. They're fun. So that's all I have.
Commissioner Krogman.
Yeah, I kind of had a light one here. Again, met with Commissioner Jensen at the OAC, and then was at the Board of Equalization. But that was it. I didn't have any other meetings scheduled. We are planning today, Commissioner Jensen and myself, to go to the OAC to meet with Lynn, our insurance person, at 2 o'clock. And then tomorrow morning, we're going to be doing the walkthrough for our GF&P offices. That construction, I got notice Monday that construction was done. And got in touch with Emmett, and he and the two gentlemen that'll be occupying the offices are going to meet us there at 9 with the contractor. We're going to do a walkthrough and see if there's any punch lists or anything, and then be finalizing that. And then also he sent me an agreement for the use of the entire facility for rent. He sent me a preliminary. He was going to send it to Pierce, so he wanted me to wait and see if Pierce had any changes before I submitted it to Mr. Brightsman and stuff for our approval down the road. But hopefully that walkthrough goes well. If it does, then we'll have to talk. Our original lease started April 1st, but it was more on completion. And so we'll have to have discussions of when they want to occupy, if they want to start moving now, and then if we prorate rent to the date based off of there and stuff too. We'll have to discuss a little bit of that, but I'm not sure when they're going to start wanting to go in. Maybe we'll just start the lease May 1st or something, but we'll have to, and then the billing portion of it, I'm not sure how we'll have to handle that because it's our project. I'm not sure if we'll need to, because we agreed to split costs on that. And so when we get that bill, are we going to pay the whole thing, submit a bill to Game Fish and Parks to get reimbursed?
That's probably easiest that we then ask for reimbursement from them.
Okay. But yeah, that, so far so good there, so we'll see how that goes.
So the carpet's down and the walls are painted, everything's ready to move in?
I haven't, he called me yesterday, I haven't had a chance to get out there, but I will this afternoon find out. I'll walk through it again before even tomorrow morning, so my understanding is yes.
Very exciting.
Oh, signs are up.
Oh, yeah, signs are up, Stein sign installed, the exterior signs, so, Game Fish and Parks, 4-H extension, right next to the OAC sign. This is on the north side, and then they also put the signage up for the archery range and the firearms range. So that I think it looked good. The south side signs are a little smallish compared to what we were expecting, but they're not lit. They weren't expected to be noticeable type ones. But if somebody pulls back and sees in, they should be able to. They're harder to read when you're going down the road. The 22nd Avenue South, but when you pull into the park or in that park and look at it, you can see what they are. So,
When we looked at claims, I was going to ask this and I just forgot, but when on claims, we've got Cook's Waste Paper that is the BCOAC, and then we have a charge for 4-H, it's like $6 for Cook's. Are we splitting that bill between those? Why do they each have a bill for Cook's?
It would be splitting it, prorating this. It's one bill, and then we're splitting it between the two budgets.
So do you remember just off the cuff what percentage was assigned to 4-H then?
I don't. I'd have to go back and look.
All right. Any further questions for Commissioner Krogman? Commissioner Bartley?
All right, April 5th, as Commissioner Miller alluded to, the Joint Powers Board met. We did get a proposal from a company for an energy audit of the building and possible solutions to that. The majority of the savings were revolving around LED lighting and changing the lighting in the building, which is kind of expensive to start with, but the payoff is substantial in the long term. Also attended the fire station ribbon cutting for a short period of time, wasn't able to stay for the actual pushing the fire trucks back into the station. Apparently is part of the tradition there to opening a new fire station. On the 9th, the Chamber Legislative Lunch is always interesting with David Owens. Information was provided on the legislative process and how it played out this year. Also the jail expansion. Interesting presentations, nice comments from the committee on how they wanted the design go. Actually took some testimony from the audience that wasn't expected, but I thought it played out well as far as the presentation went and the suggestions. On the 10th, the Board of Adjustment will continue here today. On the 11th, we had the leader roundtable in the morning, always a good discussion there, and joint jurisdiction. Also at that time, we left the leader roundtable, several of us get to joint jurisdiction, and we're still working through some of our definitions and some of the ideas that we want for different ag zones within the joint jurisdiction area and how we want this to play out. It's a long process and it'll take us a while yet to get there, but we are moving through the steps with the help of the 1st District. On the 12th, attended the E9-1 meeting, E911. That's the first time I've been to that, or second time I've been to the meeting. Always good information there, and it's quite an involved process when you look at it, but I'm learning as I go there. And yesterday attended the new city manager selection social. Met the 3 individuals. They all appear to be very well qualified. Also went to the East Central Behavioral Health Board meeting yesterday, and it's a continuation of the process we've been working through, and some good information at that meeting on how we might proceed. That concludes my presentation.
Any questions for Commissioner Bartley? On April 3rd, we had a planning and zoning meeting. On April 9th, I attended the legislative luncheon, and one of the things that I thought was interesting at the luncheon was the comments about Senate Bill 62, which dealt with the cybersecurity information, and I asked Stacy to reach out because the city had just put cybersecurity coverage on their liability policy, and you had sent me some information. You want to just share that because that was interesting.
We do have cybersecurity coverage, $400,000. That would cover assistance to us if there was, if we had somebody who, like a ransom type threat, to help, get that taken care of. But also, if there is ever a data breach, in which Senate Bill 62 talks about having to notify those whose information may have been stolen, there's coverage to help determine how to do that and to help us with that process too, if that were ever to happen to the county. So we do have coverage in place through SDPAA. They added that just within the last couple of years. They added that to their policy. So,
on April 9th, I attended the jail expansion meeting, and it was interesting looking at the different drawings, and we'll see how that comes back the next time. Attended the Board of Equalization that we all did on the 10th. On April 11th, the Joint Jurisdiction Committee, as Bob told us, formed a subcommittee to work on making some recommendations on mining ordinance revisions that would apply to the joint jurisdiction area and possibly to the county and possibly to the city. They'd have to go back to all the same groups. But there has been some conversation that when our boundaries are so close, it might be nice in some of those areas if we had similar rules. So we'll see what they come back with. On April 11th, met with Terry, Bob, and Richard. And I just wanted to say, Commissioner Krogman has said that he would be willing to review our private shooting sports recommended ordinance. And Bob, if you didn't mind sending him a copy of that, that would be great. We're going to be adding a section to the zoning ordinances on conditional uses for private shooting entities. So we'll see how that goes. Then attended the E911 meeting on April 12th. We're working on the budget for 2019. And I think the recommendation probably is going to come back that each entity, the city and the county, contribute maybe $10,000 a year. I think that was the number we were talking about, to go into a fund to pay for all those new radios that we're going to need to be compliant in 2022, because that's going to be a huge amount of money to come up with in 1 year. And we thought it might be more prudent to start saving some dollars to apply to that. But we're having our budget meeting in May, and more will come back on that.
Question?
Mm-hmm.
Which entities? Are you talking fire departments? Are you talking like the highway and the sheriffs? Or
City, county.
City.
City, county. Okay.
Yeah, city, county. Then we talked about, and then on April 12th, I attended the PPCC POD meeting, and we toured the hospital, which I had done that before, but every time I go out there, I get lost now. and it was very interesting. That was helpful. On April 12th, I also went to the farmhouse community leadership supper and talked with interesting young people that are, looking at where they're going forward with their future. The house, I think they said, could hold 48 people. They have 32 right now, but it is a very nice facility, and their numbers are increasing. So, and then last night I attended the meet and greet for the new city manager, and did have an opportunity, like Commissioner Bartley did, to talk to each of the 3 applicants, all of whom made a comment to me how great it is that Brookings County and the city of Brookings have such a good relationship, and that was not necessarily the case where each of them came from. So, and that's all I had to report. Anybody have any questions for me? Chris, I did not ask you if you had a department head report. I'm sorry.
I don't have anything.
Okay. And our next item is at 11 o'clock for our equalization hearings. Did you have anything we could address in advance of that? We're going to take a short break. Otherwise, we'll come back at 11, or if you had some things we could talk about before 11, we'll come back a little sooner.
No, I really don't, other than I mentioned this morning to someone in here that Randy Suarez, who's one of our appellants, stopped in yesterday afternoon to gather some information for his appeal this morning. And I asked him if he'd received his official notification, because I made phone contact with all of these people to inform them their times. And as of yesterday, but he said he hadn't gotten his mail, he still had not received the mail notification. So I think going forward next year, our protocol will be, I mean, we're required to mail them notification, but I think I'll work with Jenna on the appeal forms when they make appeal, and that PT 17, there's a phone number on there. I think we will make phone calls, schedule via phone call, and the mail will be the backup. And then we'll keep a checklist that made contact, left voicemails or whatever. He did get my voicemail last Tuesday after the meeting, because as soon as we were done, I went and called the 3 individuals and said, "You've been moved." No mail. So that's out of our control. So moving forward, we'll address it.
Anybody have,
Well, just a quick question. Do we adjourn this meeting and then reconvene as a
Yes.
Board of Equalization? So we have to adjourn this meeting, basically,
Yes.
and then reconvene.
anything else? Would we have a motion to adjourn?
So move.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
We're adjourned, and we'll start back up as the Board of Equalization at 11 o'clock.
And just a reminder, before we get going, this first appeal is via the telephone. So in order for the gentleman on the phone to hear you, you do have to speak into your mics. Otherwise, he will not be able to hear what you say.
There we go. It's 11 o'clock, and the Brookings County Commission is going to reconvene as the Brookings County Board of Equalization. Our first matter is discussion and possible action on Gray Bar Electric Company, Inc. appeal. And Chris, I'm going to turn it over to you.
Yeah, this appeal here is by Gray Bar. It's a business entity that rents from a property owner, John Mills, here in Brookings for their business location. They made appeal. We did receive the appeal for local board the day before local board, and I got in touch with them. Since they are an out-of-state or an out-of-county entity, they can go directly to the county board. And so when we received, because of the short window of time from their requirement to file appeal, to get them scheduled and to get an agenda posted, there wasn't time to be heard at the local board. So no harm, no foul for them. They were able to go directly to the county. So with that, this is their appeal. So I think we've got Mr. Matt Pauling on the line. And I think, Matt, can you hear us?
Yes, I can hear you. We actually have two Matts in our office, and I'm Matt Selling.
Oh, okay.
Just to clarify.
Okay. And I believe you're based out of Denver?
Correct.
Okay. So with that, I think we will let Matt go ahead and give his portion, as he is the appellant in this process, and then we'll let Larry follow up with the rebuttal for our county.
Go ahead, Mr. Selling. Tell us what you want us to know, and would you please speak loudly?
Oh, we do have handouts. Jenna? Oh, okay. You have handouts of evidence that they have provided? Okay.
You may proceed.
Great. Thank you, first of all, to the board for allowing this phone hearing. So I'm starting on our second page of the handout. It's titled Summary of Salient Facts and Conclusions. Just to give you a rundown of the property, we do represent Gray Bar in this matter. The address is 3100 6th Street. It's in the eastern side of town, just east of Interstate 29. The leasable area of this property is 10,000 square feet, and we have a land area of just over 69,000 square feet. Year of construction is 1993. And the value in the middle portion of that page actually increased 18% this year. So last year we were at about $60 per foot, and this year it's at about $70 per foot. And for our analysis today, We've used all three approaches to value: the income approach, the cost approach, and the sales comparison approach to value. And for our requested value, we're at almost exactly $60 a foot, close to last year's assessment. And we've concluded that value by using 1/3 weight to each of our three approaches to value. So it's just a straight average of those three. And then on a third page is our income approach. We're using a fee simple income approach to value with $5.08 per square foot of rent. That gets us to our gross potential rent. We're allowing a 5% vacancy deduction, as well as 5% for owner's expenses, and 10 cents per square foot for replacement reserves. After those three deductions, we're at our net operating income of $44,847 total. And we're using a capitalization rate of 8.5%, which is what we used throughout South Dakota market this year. And that gets us to our rounded income valuation of $530,000. But we're also accounting for some excess land because the land that this property sits on, we realize is slightly larger than the typical property here. So after accounting for $85,000 in excess land, that gets us to a total valuation of $614,493, which is $61.45 per square foot. And then I'll move along to our sales comparison approach. On the next page, the very first row of this approach is our subject property. So you can compare the sales to the property that we're looking at. The next four rows are properties that have sold within the last 2 years that I have found comparable to our subject. These four properties have a net leasable area of, 12,000 to 9,000 square feet. Since we're at 10,000, I think those are comparable in size. I've adjusted the land area because the average for these four properties is at around 53,000 square feet of land. And since we're a bit larger, that's where I have the excess land valuation coming in. The year of construction column is about 2/3 of the page over on the right-hand side. The average for these three or four properties is 1981. Our building was built in 1993, so we're slightly newer. Again, I have the sale date and the recorded sales price. It's a very tight-knit grouping of price per foot there. So you can see the highest was $43 per foot and the lowest was $42.11 per foot. That gets us to an average of $42.51. But that's not our requested value, the $42.51, after adjusting for excess land. And we've also used a time adjustment because these are slightly older sales. We're requesting a value of $52.75 per square foot, or $527,600. And after that approach, I'll move on to our cost approach. Our cost approach, we use the Marshall & Swift estimator. It's an online software that we have access to here at our firm. And we just plug in the information identical to what the county has on record. So it's a Class C warehouse with 10,352 square feet, and we're using an effective age of 25 years. That's when it was built 25 years ago in, I believe it was 1993. So yeah, exactly 25 years. And then we're adding back the land valuation, which is the same as the county's land valuation. And then we're also including the parking lot, 10,120 square feet of asphalt for the parking lot. And that gets us to a total depreciated cost of $639,265. And that's our cost approach. So we've used the average of these three approaches to value to come with our concluded market value, or our opinion of market value. And that's all I have at this time.
Any questions for Mr. Selling? If not, equalization may proceed with its presentation.
And I have Larry doing this presentation on behalf of equalization.
Good morning. We're talking about subject is located at 3100 6th Street, Brookings, South Dakota. Owner John and Joy Mills. Leased to Gray Bar, triple net rent. Is what we known from last year. The 2018 structure value of $331,600 and land value of $368,500 for a total of $700,100. There were 2 new additions added for 2018. So with the exemption of $88,100 for the discretionary formula, any new additions added to a commercial property assessed at $30,000 or more deserves a discretionary formula. And in the rate it goes the first year, they're only assessed at 20%. Second year it'd be 40, and third year it'd be 60, fourth year it'd be 80, and then finally 100% assessed of full and true. So we only assessed the 2 new additions at 20%. So that would become a total value of $212,100. The 2 additions are 1-story steel frame, and were completed for 2008 are as follows: a 479 square foot dock addition at $33.61 per square foot assessed. 1,154 square foot office addition was assessed at $81.46 per square foot. Also newly added is a 4,000 square foot of concrete with 7-foot chain link fence around it, and some new parking lot paving added for the 2018 assessment year. The original part is 10,000 square foot, and we have that assessed at $20.02 per square foot. We called and emailed John Mills asking for some information on the subject property, but was referred to Gray Bar for any questions on information that we needed. So on April 2nd, 2018, I called Gray Bar in Brookings and talked to the manager, Dustin. I asked him for rental information, and he said he would talk to the main office about it, and that he would let us come and review the interior and the exterior of the subject property, which we did on that day. Later that day, I received an email from Kevin, a corporate property manager of Gray Bar. He said that it appears to be an unusual request to ask for rent and a copy of the lease, and to call him. So I called him, left a message for him, and on April 4th, 2018, he called, and I asked for rental information, and he said he would get back to me, but never did call back. For the sales comparison approach, I found 3 comparable sales that are located in Brookings County and in the city of Brookings, which would be very good comps. We pull up the subject there first. Subject, like we said, 3100 6th Street, Brookings, South Dakota, built in 1993, and 2 additions were built 2016, and it got done in 2017. Total assessed value, $700,100. Square foot of building area is 11,633 square feet. That's including the 2 new additions, for a total value per square foot is $60.18 a square foot. The final comparables, Comp 1, located at 334 32nd Avenue, Brookings, South Dakota. It was built in 1990. Effective age is 1994. It's located very close to the subject property. Date of sale, 10/13, 4 years old. So I took the sale price times 2% per year that it was, how old the sale was, which equals out to be $243,500. Wood frame is what the comparable is, so I plussed it 10% because the subject is steel, which equals out to be $266,000. Square foot of building is 4,160 square feet. The adjusted sale price per square foot, $63.94 a square foot. Comp 2, located at 3307 Prince Drive, Brookings, South Dakota, built 2013, effective age 2013, sale date was 12/15. So I added 2 years at 2%, which equals up to be $527,100. The square foot of the building is 8,760 square feet. Sale price per square foot equals out to be $60.17 a square foot. And that one is located very close to the subject too, in the, on the east side of the interstate. Then the last sale that I found was 803 Main Avenue South in Brookings, South Dakota, built 1973, effective age of 1981, so it is an older building. Sale price $828,000. I did a time adjustment of 3 years on it, so it came out to be $878,700. Square foot of the building is 15,000 square feet. Sale price per square foot is $58.58. And I guess that's all I have. Like for you to take note that there's 633 square feet in the building itself as of November 1st of 2017, assessment date. Any questions?
We cannot use comparables from different counties, can we? Or can we?
I cannot to establish the value.
Okay.
If I was to go on to circuit court or Office of Hearing Examiners, then there's no limit. For us to maintain equalization and fair and accurate assessments, we have to stay within our county.
Okay.
I just wanted to point out on Larry's behalf, we have a difference in square footage. I'm not sure if they're aware. They appealed this last year and used the same square footage. I don't know that they're using the additions square footage in their calculations.
And that, go ahead. That would be my question for Matt, I guess, is where did you get the 10,000? And we're using obviously a different square footage, which then changes the per square foot dramatically. It seems to be it's fairly simple that if we're at 11,600, the actual, I'm guessing this is the actual square footage of the building, 11,633, that at the 700,000, we're coming in at $60 a square foot, which is right where you're coming in at. So it seems like the approaches are all the same. The only difference here is square footage.
Yeah, I agree with that. It looks like we're pretty much looking at the same except for the square footage. I would have to call our tenant there to confirm all those additions and confirm what the true square footage is in order to answer that question. Unfortunately, I don't have that answer today.
Anyone else have any questions? Any motion or?
Can't make, I don't want to make a motion. Well, I guess if you can't make a negative motion, I don't want to just make a motion to approve it. I don't want to.
Okay.
Because I'm not going to vote for it, so.
Well,
Well, I think what our options are, and Chris, you can correct me. I think we can have a motion to approve the valuation from Department of Equalization. We can have a motion to approve the request of the appellant, or we can do something in between. I don't know that we want to, on an appeal, take no action whatsoever. Is that correct, Chris?
I would agree with that. You can vote to uphold our value, uphold or take the appellant's request, or somewhere in the middle, but action should be taken.
I would make a motion to approve the Department of Equalization's assessment.
Second.
Any further discussion?
And I guess, unless I can see evidence that our square footage is wrong, I guess the information that Gray Bear brought kind of solidifies the $60 a square foot. And if Gray Bar can bring that our 11,633 is incorrect, I'd relook at it again, I guess. But from coming off of what we have here, that's where I'm coming at.
Anyone else? We'll do a roll call vote.
Miller?
Aye.
Krogman?
Aye.
Bartley?
Aye.
Jensen?
Aye.
Pierce?
Aye.
Motion carries.
Thank you, Mr. Selling.
Okay, thank you very much.
Our next item will be discussion and possible action on Dennis DeBoer appeal.
This one here, we sent out an assessment notice this one here, I will speak first on this one. This is my appeal, appealing the local board decision back. So some background on this here. In 2004, the office assessed this value. This is a back lot, and I'll pull up a picture of it. What we're looking at here is this in yellow down at the bottom. It's kind of a triangular shape. It's the entrance. It's right to the left as you go into Oakwood, the Wagon Wheel Resort. It's a piece of land that's there. In 2002, this parcel was platted by Lillian DeBoer, recorded in the Book of Plats, 23, page 21, as Lot 14. It's 32,627.5 square feet, or approximately 0.749 acres. Little history on it then. In 2004, the equalization, before I started, had placed a value on this of $29,100. It was appealed to the local board at that time, and the local board lowered it to zero. Worthless, no value. The the Office of Equalization at that time challenged that decision back to the county board. They prevailed, and it was set at a value of $800 in 2004. In 2005, I'm not sure what happened. That's the first year I started with the county. It was reduced in our office from $800 to $300 of value. It remained at $300 of value through 2014. In 2015, I believe we had a market change out there in Oakwood where land values were increased. This property went from $300 to $400 of value. It was at $400 for 2015 and 16. In 2017, I discovered, and I don't recall why, but I discovered an error on there. When we have lake lots, we start them out and we value them at a value per frontage to the lake. When we have a back lot, we reduce those by 50%. So you got lakefront, and then if you're a back lot, we automatically take 50%. The office, at whatever point in time, had placed an 87% reduction on the back lot for that, which is what I adjusted in 2017. Then, because of what it is and where it is, the office has a 95% reduction for its shape, for its size, for its topography. This is a hill. It's an irregular shape. It's an overly large lot. The net result is what I did last year for 2017 is I left that 95% on there, so it went from $400 of value. Let me back up a little bit. It starts out as a lakefront lot at $62,120 of value. If it was on the water, it's not. I removed the 87% adjustment, reduced it to 50% for all lake rear lots. That reduced it down to the $31,000. Then because of its shape, its size, its topography, we're taking another 95% of value off. I sent out an assessment notice last year at $1,600. It was not appealed. 2018 assessment notice went out at $1,600. The DeBoers felt that was too much. They appealed it to the local board. The local board reduced that back to $400, and I am challenging the $400 decision back to $1,600 for, again, 3/4 of an acre. And I have that's my picture. I also have put a picture of the plat in here, showing lot 14 there, right under the Tatanka. It's a pretty large piece of ground.
And I just want to summarize that 7.49 acres,
Yes.
and it's zoned Lake Park.
You know, the zoning, yeah, it's Lake Park District up there. It's, one other thing that I guess the DeBoers, when I talked with them on the phone, they said it was unbuildable. I cannot verify that. I checked with zoning, and Rich said there's nothing to this lot that says it can't be built on other than the normal setbacks. So it's a buildable lot. And that, when I found that out, I kind of questioned even the 1,600, but that's all I have. I'll turn it over to the DeBoers.
And would you please say your name and then speak directly and loudly into the microphone? Thank you.
I'm Martha DeBoer, and I just listed a little background on this piece of property. Before this lot was platted, it was land that was part of the original homestead as pasture. The farm, except for all platted lots, was deeded over to Dennis in 2001. After that time, when the lake lots were replatted to sell, this piece of land was platted without our knowledge or permission. We did not learn about it until after it was all done. Now, is it not policy to check on the ownership of land as the county office, at the county office, when it is platted or sold before it is filed? Where are the checks and balances in our government offices? It is also our opinion that taxes should be considered on property as it is and not what it could be, just because someone else can afford to make it what it could be. Maybe it is time to remember some policy. Maybe it is time to reconsider some policy changes as to how our county offices work and also how taxes are figured. I hope that this commission will take into consideration that their job is not only to bring in dollar taxes, but in tax dollars, but to listen and serve the citizens of this county with common sense.
Dennis DeBoer. Correct me if I'm wrong, but this is the only backlot on Lake Oakwood that I'm aware of. And where's the comparisons to the value of this lot? They do it from the lakefront value. Have there been any other backlots that have been sold recently on this lake? And I'm not sure there's been any that I know of.
And I'm not aware of any right off the top of my head.
I talked to the zoning board, and they said there's a 50-foot setback on every side of this property. So that means all three sides, there's got to be a 50-foot setback. So there is actually 28.5 feet wide by about 80 feet long that you could build on. But underneath this property lies a lot of utilities. The rural water has main lines that we weren't aware of till 2 years ago when there was a water break. And when I asked them 3 years ago about it, they said there was no water lines. So there's water lines underneath there, and they didn't even know it. Also, there's other utilities the guy would have to move. A lot of trees, which don't mean nothing to a lot of people because they just go in and take them out anyhow. This land has been in the family since it was homesteaded, but I know of the last 60 years this piece of property has never been used for anything, has never had any type of revenue taken off of it. We maintained all the weeds on it, the garbage. We also cut all the cedar trees from the Brookings County right-of-way that developed there in the last few years. We've been taking care of that ourselves. The county hasn't been doing that. This property has never been sold, and as far as I know, it will never be for sale. We're not talking a lot of money on taxes or anything, but we just feel that the value of this property keeps increasing, or it keeps changing, and I don't understand why this is all happening, but I think it should be kept at a low price because there's never going to be nothing ever done to it that I'm aware of. I guess that's all I have.
I have a question for Chris. I don't know if you're able to pull up the plat, but I'm pretty confident that on a plat to be recorded, it has to have an owner's signature.
It does, and he is correct, and I found another note on here because we researched this a couple of years ago. I think when, I just remember going through it. Lillian platted this, and apparently it was platted after the transfer, and I don't have the date written on here. Lillian platted, now I gotta look because I got that wrote down, in Book of Plats, page 23, or Book 23, page 21 in 2002. That's when it was platted, but the documentation, apparently there was a transfer to Dennis prior to that. So it was platted after. So they're correct that they didn't know it was being platted. And I don't have the date written down here, but in Book 169, miscellaneous, page 280, Dennis signed off on the amended allowing that platting to have happened. So my thoughts is it was sold to Dennis, it was platted without his knowledge. After the fact, there was an amended to that, a lot saying, okay, it happened, we're good with it.
May I say something?
Would you let him finish and then I'll...
Yeah, I just had the notes written here from when I looked at it. It was a couple years ago, I think we talked about it.
Go ahead.
After they amended it, because then the lawyer and the whatchamacallit figured out they screwed up. After it was done, we were done. I mean, what are you going to do about it? I mean, who's going to go back and vacate it and spend all this money to vacate it again? I mean, it's property, it's land that's not bringing in any income. I think that the county offices somehow should have corrected this and caught it before it ever happened. That's my personal feelings. We would never have platted it.
And then I just want to advise the commission, just so you're aware, that in the first reading of the ordinance that we did today, those setbacks are changed to 25 feet as opposed to 50. And I don't know that these folks necessarily know that, but the setbacks were cut in half for non-lakefront property in Lake Park.
When did this all take place? Because I just talked to the zoning board 2 days, just on Friday.
We had our first reading of the new ordinance this morning, and then it'll go to public hearing. I don't know, Stacy, if you remember that.
It's May 15th
May
at
15th.
9:30, yeah.
And then after that, assuming everything flows smoothly, that'll all be in place after our referral period by the middle of June approximately.
So nothing's really changed then, not right now.
No.
Not yet.
Question. In Lake Park, and this is more zoning, and Bob's not here, what can be built on a lot? The thing about it is they don't have ownership of a lot. There's a back lot. A lot of people have ownership, and then they have a back lot, and they can build a garage there. But if you don't have ownership on the lake, and you have your own separate lot that's off of it, but it's in the district, can you just build a shop on there? Can you build a building, or can you build storage units?
You can build anything you could build anywhere else and on any lake lot. You can build the same thing there. You could build a shop, you could build a garage, you could build a house. Okay. Storage units would need a conditional use permit.
So the only thing that this is basically, well, you got to be able to try to fit some type of a house on here, but when you got 25-foot frontage, the odds of building a house on here is pretty slim. So you're probably looking at the usage of this, if it was buildable, would be a utility building or something like that. We got 128, 50-foot setback, 250, so we got 28 foot of frontage off of there. So your buildability is 28 by
No, I wouldn't,
With the new ones, it'd be 78 feet and
Right, but I mean, right now. 'cause
And
I'm
80.
in-
We have to judge this
80
like
by
it is
80.
right now.
Exactly, we have to use the current conditions.
Right.
But so
Yes.
if you have a 50, going off of South Oakwood, go 50 foot in, go off of the line off there, 50 foot in, we lose 100 out of the 128, so you got 28 feet basically to build upon, and you're not going to build a house in 28 feet. So the only thing you can really build is some type of personal shed that's agreed upon. That's basically a 25-foot shed that is deep by, I don't know where the 50-foot would come in, where it blocks the back end there, but maybe a 25 by 100 maybe foot lot that's buildable for there. And can a person just build on a lot a shop? You know, when
Yes.
they can do that in Lake Park.
Mhm.
Because I know
They
you can't
can.
do that in the cities or anything like that. You have to have residential buildings first and then build the shop. You can't just have, you can in Lake Park?
you can do that in Lake Park. You have to, depending on what you're building, you might need a conditional use permit. It is not unusual on those lots that are on lakes, and particularly the ones that are not lakefront, for them to have an odd shape, because lakes aren't all the same shape. And this is an issue that had come up on a lot at Lake Hendricks last year. And that was one of the things that impacted when we were looking at it. And I understand we're looking at the old rules today, but that's one of the things that, the reason for the change is to make those lots more usable. What my question is, and I understand you folks don't want to sell this land, okay? I do understand that. But if you were going to sell it, I'm not saying that you are, but if you were going to sell that land, what would you ask for it, for that lot? I'm not saying you're going to sell it, but what would you ask for it?
The problem I have is I don't want to sell anything I own because you're never going to get it back.
And I do understand that.
It
But
it has no value to me to sell it because money doesn't mean anything to me. As long as I can survive, that's the problem I have.
And we do not have the money to build on it as of now.
But fair market
And-
value does play a part in the determination of the tax value. And so you
You
have.
can't, to me and to us, I don't know what you guys come from a different world in figuring taxes, but as a citizen and a whatnot, I feel that as is, it's not worth anything. If we can't even afford to tear the trees down, cut the trees down, and then fight with utilities coming in and digging up your property all the time they have a water leak or want to do something with their lines for phone and electric, I mean,
So
it's worthless.
You're choosing not to answer the question then. If my question was, if you were going to sell it, I'm not saying that you are, but if you were going to sell it, how much money would you ask for that 7.49
We don't have a set
acres?
value, do we?
Because it's going to be handed down to the family probably.
And not only that, but if someone really wants that property and they think they can do something with it, after they get it and they do the work on it, let them pay the taxes on it. As of right now, the way it is, it's worthless.
How many acres did you say this was? 3/4?
0.74.
Also, the comment I'd like to give, the zoning board, I talked to 3 years ago on this property, and they said you absolutely can't build on it because it ain't large enough. And so all of a sudden now, it's gotten quite a bit bigger, and I don't understand who figured it or what happened, but because we checked into it 3 years ago because of the valuation changes and stuff, and we was wondering about ever developing it for something, but he said you can't build on it, and you can't sell individual chunks off it to the lake lots because it's got to be 20,000 square feet or more, or to sell a little chunk to each of them lots in front by the lake.
That's not actually accurate. It has to be 20,000 feet to sell a piece that you can build anything on that needs a sanitary system. But if lots of people at lakes sell smaller than the 20,000 feet so that somebody could put up a shed, a garden shed or whatever. But I understand what you're saying, but the 20,000
We wouldn't do that
feet-
anyway.
No,
If someone in front lot, lots, we wouldn't be willing to sell to them anyway and split it up.
And I do understand that. It's just the 20,000 feet relates to what you need in order to build something with a sanitary system.
Chris, if this wasn't a platted lot and it was still considered a piece of property and you got 0.74 acres, how much per acre is your minimal in the county?
Well, if this wasn't platted, she asked me that in the phone conversation, said this was farmland. It was always farmland. It should be farmland. And my suggestion was to vacate it. The most I could be then would be $3,918 an acre if it was crop soils. I don't know the soil inventory on this piece. So $3,900 per acre would be the top, and it goes down from there.
Is that pasture?
Nope, that's crop soils. It's $1,811 an acre for grass soils is the top dollar.
And this is all trees.
One of the problems that I mentioned to her, I suggested possibly vacating the plat, and then it can go out of it has a potential to going back to ag, but now with the law changes of ag, I don't know that it would qualify because now every piece has to raise an ag product. You know, if we could incorporate this back with another piece, then that could be met. But I couldn't guarantee right now today that this piece of ground, if the plat was vacated, that it would automatically revert to ag. It would take an application, and that process would have to be proved. First off, this piece right here on its own would need to raise an ag product. Then it would have to be at least 20 acres, which it's not. But if it's part of a management unit totaling up to 80 within 20 air miles, then that criteria could be met, which I believe they would meet that. But the raising a product on it has to be met now under current statute.
Chris, is there any valuation difference if it's a shelter belt on an ag piece of property or not?
No.
Doesn't matter.
No,
soil
that's
types.
one of those arguments that
Soil
we get. I'm not farming it, so, and I said, well, if you're not farming it, then it's non-ag.
I'm sure the lake lot owners would like to see the tree stay there as a shelter belt, the windbreak.
There has been one owner that wishes not to change it. But the thing is, we don't feel that this property value should continue to go up along with all the other shoreline property each year, just because it's land in demand around a lake, when it's not even comparable to the other lots. And like you said, you don't know if there's other back lots on Lake Oakwood to even compare it to. And this is a back lot. It's not front.
Okay, anybody else have anything to say? Were you folks finished? Thank you. Chris, anything else from you?
No, I have nothing.
Do we have a motion?
Go ahead.
Well, I understand where Chris is coming from here, but I think it's a unique situation. And it's unique for Lake Oakwood to have even a backlot available and what the use is for it and what the continued use for it. So my motion is going to be to accept the county board of the $400.
Second.
Any further discussion?
Brian, can I hear that again?
Well, I understand this. It's with the 50-foot setbacks, and that's what I'm going off of right now. This is not necessarily a buildable lot. I understand if the situation, again, with the platting and then trying to go through and vacating, that's another unique situation that doesn't happen on all those. And this is one back lot that we can see it all in Lake Oakwood. It's being used as an area of when you come right in, and I guess I don't see it as a pasture. I don't see it used as a pasture. I don't see it used really much for anything except for when you come into that entrance to have that on there. And so I understand the equalization, that you need to keep everybody equal, that people have backlots that have to pay those, and you need to be equal along with other lots and other places. But I also think sometimes there's some unique situations that pop up that is you find space that's just not really usable for much, and so I think this is a unique situation. I would say, what you guys are talking about of we're never going to sell it, that really can't enter in the equation for us, because we have to be equal with everybody. And so I understand you want to pass it down, you'll never sell it and that kind of stuff, and you won't build on it, but we can't really take that into consideration. But I look at where they're at and the ability to build on this lot, what the value really is, and if it's even worth going through that. I also turn around and look at the ag portion of it, which if we made this a pasture, and at the high mark of 1,800, I would argue that that's not really a pasturable land. That might be at the lowest mark of pasturable. And if you took 0.74 at the lowest mark, where would that get us at? And I think it'd get us closer to 400 than it would 1,600. I know we can't use that because of the platted portion of it, but again, there was an unfortunate situation there that it got platted when it wasn't, they didn't want it to get platted. So with all of that adding up, I think this is a unique situation, and I'm making that motion for the appellant's request or the local board's action request of $400.
Okay.
Go ahead.
And the reason I'm supporting the motion is I think it's a fair assessment at this particular point in time, but I would certainly caution you that if in the future that setback goes to 25 feet, the intrinsic value of that property is going to skyrocket on you to a certain degree, and I think we need to be prepared for that in the future. Even though you may not ever sell it, somebody probably will in the future, and we don't want it to do that from here to there if we can incrementally value that property. So in the future, just be aware that the setback requirements are going to change the value of that property, in my opinion, quite a bit. Whether you sell it or not doesn't matter. It's going to change the value of the property. So at this point in time, I'll support the motion, but I think in the future you need to be aware that that's probably going to change.
And I'm not going to support the motion, and I just want to make clear why not. I am strongly convinced that the fair market value of that lot as it sits with the setbacks is in excess of $1,600. And everybody else pays their fair share, even if they plan on keeping their land, and I'm not going to support that.
I guess I'm going to support it. The land looks like it has no value, but I like seeing those trees there, and I like seeing what's kind of some historic value there to add to the Oakwood area. So
I feel like when the setbacks change, it's going to be a hard hit for you guys because it will definitely go up. And I guess I think 400 is too low. I was thinking more along the lines of 8. So I'm not going to support it either.
Anything further? Call the roll.
Krogman?
Aye.
Bartley?
Aye.
Jensen?
Aye.
Miller?
No.
Pierce?
No.
Motion carries.
Thank you.
Thank you.
We appreciate your time.
Item number C, discussion and possible action on the Randy Suarez appeal. Do we have anyone appearing on this matter?
Yes, Randy is here. This one here, he was not able to attend the local board. He did appeal to the local board just to preserve his right to come to the county board. And then we scheduled, and unfortunately with the mail delay and all of that, he has been rescheduled to this date. This is Randy's appeal, so it's the first time he's being heard, so I'll let him present his case. Larry will represent our offices for rebuttal.
don't know if I need a microphone. I've got a big enough mouth already, so if I'm too loud, have me pipe myself down a little bit.
Go ahead and tell us what you'd like us to know.
Thank you. First of all, thank you for meeting with me, and we've had a couple stumbles here on getting together, but we've made it. And first of all, from what I've handed out, many of you or all of you probably do understand fair market value and full and true value, but I thought of including this definition in to help my cause. And what I'd like to bring out, I'm just going to read it. The term fair market value and the term full and true value mean the price in money that property will bring in a competitive and open market under all conditions requisite to a fair sale between a willing buyer and a willing seller, each acting prudently and with full knowledge of the relevant facts and assuming the price is not affected by any undue stimulus. I do not know the previous owner of this home, so there was no special consideration on the sale of this home. Why I'm here is because of what I paid for the home in comparison to what I am being assessed at. The next page in the pamphlet that I've given you is from the real estate office from which I purchased the home through. And I've circled numerous things on this, showing the price I purchased the home for, which is $175,000, and it shows the time that the home has been spent on the market, which days on market on this sheet show 80 days on the market. But as you can see, there was a caravan. And I don't know how long caravans last, but the home was on the market for more than 80 days. The realtor that I purchased the home from said it's a good estimate of around 100 days that this home was on the market. So there was plenty of time for people to purchase this home at the asking price, and then also at the second change of asking price, and then at the third change of asking price before I finally purchased it in late October of 2017. I'd also like to bring the fact, and I circled it at the bottom, that the price that I purchased it for did include many other amenities, which are circled at the far left bottom of the realtor's information sheet. So, no relationship in any way, shape, or form, no special treatment from the previous owner. The home was on the market for at least 100 days. Many other people had a chance to purchase this home, and I was able to purchase it for $175,000 with amenities included. I'd like to thank Chris and Larry for their information and time they've spent with me. They've been great to work with, and I thank you for that. The last two sheets I'd like to bring to your attention, and correct me if I'm wrong, Chris or Larry. These are 23 other homes sold in just the area of my home that I reside in. Not just in Brookings, the city of Brookings, but in my area. And from what I hear, this is how we come up with an assessed value along with purchasing the purchase price of a home. There is only one other home, and it is the very last home on this sheet. It's 105 17th Avenue South that is assessed at more than 20%. But that home was only a $125,000 home. And I've been in Brookings long enough to know that you don't get much for $125,000 in this town, in the city of Brookings. I don't know the circumstances around that, but I am being assessed right now of $200,700 on the property that I own and reside in, and I purchased it for $175,000 with amenities. That's why I'm here today.
I need to recuse myself on this one.
Okay, thank you. Chris, did you want to present?
Larry's going to present for us, so I'll have Randy step away from the podium. And he's correct. I gave him his neighborhood analysis sheet, which I did have to tell him is a little bit misleading right now today, because the original sheet, when I started the market analysis, said, here's what we had it assessed for, here's what they sold for, here was your ratios, and that's what we work off of to find out what we need to do to our neighborhood, or whether we take it up or down. The neighborhood went up, and then I rerun that, and once I make those adjustments and corrections, I can't reproduce it. So what I provided him yesterday is said, here's what they sold for, here is what their value is with the increase, and here's what their new ratio is. So, and I went through that with him and showed him, I think there's 2 or 3 that I'm actually over-assessed on in the neighborhood, and the rest of them I'm all under, and I showed him, I went through the statistics of it. The neighborhood as a whole, I'm at a 92% median now, because we made the changes. We started at an 88, I corrected and increased the neighborhood. I am now at a 92. My coefficient of dispersion was, I think it was 10, which I'm allowed up to 25. The smaller, the better. My price-related differential was 1, which is right in the middle of 0.98 and 1.03. All statistics say what happened had to have happened. Not to help his argument, but he paid less than what the analysis says it should be worth. So with that, I'll have Larry present for our part.
Okay, we're talking about 420 21st Avenue. For 2018, we had structure value at $164,200, land at $36,500, for a total of $200,700. I went and looked for some comparables. The subject itself was built in 1967. We have an effective age of 1975. We have main level, 1,876 square feet. Basement, we have 576 square feet with 518 square feet of finish area. We have a 2-car attached garage. We have grade of average, condition is average. Like I said, the house was built in 1967, and in 1978, they added a 22 by 26 square foot addition of 572 square feet. In 2014, they put new kitchen cabinets in there. 2013, they added new shingles. And in between sometime they have newer exterior siding on it. And I reviewed the house 12/12 of 17 after Randy had bought it. So it sold 11/17 for $175,000, which equals out to be $93.28 per square foot. The assessed value, like I said, was $200,700, which averages out to be $106.98 a square foot. Comparable one is located at 2012 Kansas Drive, Brookings, built same year, 1967, effective age in 1976, so we have one year newer for effective age. Main level, we have 1,512 square feet. Basement, 1,032 square feet with 672 basement finish. Sold 10/17 for $207,500, which equals out to be $137.24 a square foot. Assessed value, $181,600, which equals out to be $120.11 per square foot. This property does have a 2-stall attached garage, like the subject. We have a grade of average, condition of average. It's approximately 1 block away from the subject, very current sale. Only 364 square feet difference on main level. I consider this as being a very good comparable. Then we have comparable 2, which is located at 425 Dakota Avenue in Brookings. Built 1959, effective age of 1968. Main level, 1,196 square feet, much smaller. Basement, 1,960, basement is 1,196 square foot with 624 of basement finish and only a 1-car attached garage. Sold 9 of 17, very current, for $165,000, which equals out to be $137.96 per square foot. Assessed value we have on it is $134,400, which equals out to be $112.37 per square foot. We have a grade of average on that. We have condition as average, approximately 2 blocks from the subject, very current sale. 680 square feet less on main level than the subject, and it is 9 years older. We have another comparable number 3, located at 440 Dakota Avenue in Brookings, built 1959, effective age of 1967. Main level is 1,464 square feet. Basement, 1,464 square feet with 1,113 basement finish. And it also has a 2-car attached garage. Sold January of 17 for $182,000, which equals out to be $124.32 per square foot. Assessed value, $182,500, which equals out to be $124.66 per square foot. This one we have the grade as an average, we have condition as average. Approximately 2.5 blocks away from the subject, has 412 less square feet on main level, and it's also 9 years older. Then we have another one, 2105 3rd Street in Brookings, built 1967, effective age of 1969. Main level is 2,296 square feet. Basement is 2,274 square feet with 456 square feet of finish area, and it also has a 2-car basement garage. Sold 6 of 15 for $232,000, and I added some for time adjustment on it, which for 16 I added 3%, for 17 I added 5% because 2017 they went up in price in Brookings area. So that equals out to be $250,900, which would be $109.28 per square foot. We have assessed value of $225,600 on this, which equals out to be $98.26 a square foot. This is a 2.5-year-old sale, 1 block from subject, 420 more square feet on main level than subject. And that's all I have.
Anything else you'd like to say?
Can't think of anything. No.
Okay.
Then I think that's a very good selection of comparable sales. Comp 1 is very good, just about a mirror image. And I just feel for, my 37 years of experience of appraising real estate and having good comparables, I believe that we have justified that $200,700 assessed value for the subject property.
Questions from the commission? Anybody have a motion? Pardon me, Stacy, I couldn't hear you.
What's the square footage of Randy's again? Okay, thank you.
Come on back up and speak into the mic.
Correct me if I'm wrong, but approximately 1,300 square feet of it is on crawl space. to the left of the picture, you can see the bi-level part of the home. To the left of that is on a crawl space, and that's approximately 1,300 and some odd square feet. The bi-level part of the home is where you see the dual windows, one above the other. That is approximately 570 square foot on each one of those levels. And that is bi-level. It's not a basement. That is sunk in the ground approximately 4 feet because of the water issues in that area. To the right is a 2-stall garage. There's a reason this home sold for $175,000. I've lived in it now for the last 6 months, and I'm not disapproving the home. I'm glad I found a home in Brookings. But I've already sunk almost $1,000 into the boiler, which is 13 years old. I think that turned a lot of people off on the sale of this home. Hot water boiler. Another thing is the carpets in that home got to be at least 15 to 20 years of age. And that is part of the home. There were a lot of negatives, and that's why this home was on the market for almost 100 days. And like I wanted to bring up right from the start was fair market value. There were no favors in the sale of this home. I think I paid what that home is worth. And I can go into a lot more detail on the depreciation of the value of this home because I've lived in it for the last 6 months.
Okay, so do we have a motion? You can't.
If I abstain,
You can't talk.
I can't talk.
No, sorry. And it wasn't abstained, you recused. There's a difference.
So then do I have to go sit down?
No, you can stay there, but you can't talk. Sorry.
Well-
Randy, I'm sorry, go ahead.
I would just like to say, I have the same garden level windows in my home, and that is considered a basement. We're not real far in the ground for the exact same reasons, the water issue, but that is considered a basement.
I call
of
that
garden
bi-level.
windows.
It's what they call a multi-level home. And I call that the bi-level part, but if you want to call it a basement, call it a basement.
It's garden level windows.
What makes the difference for me here is the home was on the market for that period of time, and taxes should be based on fair market or true value as defined by statute. And this house, last fall, which was not very long ago, the fair market value was determined to be $175,000 by statute.
Question that I guess I have, Randy, I had a similar situation in the house that I live in, and it was assessed on basic condition of the house being average, below average, or above average. And at the time, the house in my consideration was below average, but it was valued at average, and I thought I got a pretty good buy on it, but they certainly valued it higher, and I think it probably was valued higher. But I agree with you. That was the market value when I bought it, and I don't disagree with that. And maybe this appraisal considered your home to be in better shape than you considered it to be in after you got into the thing. You know, maybe you got a bargain, maybe you didn't in some respects, because
no bargains in Brookings.
There are no bargains in Brookings. I'd have to agree with you there. But occasionally you can find one. So in my estimation, maybe the average condition of the house was poorer than it was assessed at, and maybe you're correct, and the fair market value is correct as far as what it sold for. In 6 months' time, I don't think it's changed a lot unless you made a lot of improvements. And then, of course, that's going to reflect your next appraisal. So I guess I'll make a motion to, I don't want to go all the way back to the sale price, but I'll go to $185,000 for assessed value.
Let's get I didn't bring my calculator, but my recommendation is that we don't touch the land value. So we're actually working against 164,200 of structure value.
Reduce that by 10,000. So we'd be at 154.
149
for the structure.
154,200 for the structure and 36,500 on the land.
Does that take it down to 185 then? No, okay, you gotta take more off the structure itself, I'm sorry.
Is there a second to that?
Second.
Again, I'm going to comment. I should probably wait as chair and let everybody else comment first. 6 months ago, it's advertised for 100 days, which is a long time in the city of Brookings for a property to sell. And I think raising it to the 185, is that what your number was, Mike, is kind of cutting the baby in half in a situation where there's nothing to support that. And I really think it should be at the 175, which was the fair market value less than 6 months ago. Anybody else want to say anything? Call the roll.
Bartley,
Aye.
Jensen,
Aye.
Miller,
Aye.
Krogman,
Abstain.
Pierce.
No.
Motion carries.
And I just wanted to be clear, I thought it should be lower, not higher. That was my no.
Yeah.
But motion carries. Thank you.
So what am I being taxed at?
185.
More than what I paid for it.
Item D, action to approve elderly freeze applications.
Yeah, this year, remember when we convened, we had one more that I was going to have to go through the abatement, so I said it was good that we are reconvening because we could get that one brought in. Since then, we've received 2 more that now we can avoid the abatement process by going ahead and acting on them today. So these have been received by the finance office. They've been approved on the financials and the values of the homes and kicked over to our office, and we've calculated the frozen value for these. So these 3 new elderly freeze applications just need motion by the board for us to execute them.
So moved.
Any discussion? Call the roll.
Jensen,
Aye.
Miller,
Aye.
Krogman,
Aye.
Bartley,
Aye.
Pierce.
Aye.
Motion carries.
Anything further for the Brookings County Board of Equalization? If not, I would entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
We're adjourned. Thank you.
Basically, what I wanted to say was,
Turn your bike off.